During a ceremony, an old mage claims that the result must be wrong and asks for another instrument to measure. The girl walks to the center of the hall while everyone watches her. The new test confirms the same number, level 99. The hall starts to get agitated, with students whispering. A man approaches and asks if she knew her level. The girl, with a calm expression, confirms she has always known. Yumiella realizes that she can no longer hide her level and decides to be straightforward. She confirms without hesitation that she is at level 99 and assures there is no mistake. A young man doubts her, saying that levels only increase by defeating monsters, but she thinks to herself that she really did defeat them. After a brief moment of tension, the old mage tells her to end the greetings and return to her place while the audience is calmed down for the classes to begin. As she walks back, Yumiella notices that even the director is suspicious of her. Thinking about the worst-case scenario, she considers fleeing to another country and living off her physical strength alone. Reaching the center of the hall, she calmly introduces herself to everyone. The ceremony continues, showing the main heroine, who is also registered at level 1, just like in the game, but without drawing attention to herself. While heading to the dormitory, Yumiella is called by a young man. She recognizes him as one of the game's targets, William Ares, known for his physical strength and exaggerated sense of justice, but also his explosive temper. He quickly accuses Yumiella of cheating on the level test. Even though confused, she tries to understand the situation, while William keeps going on about honor and nobility. Before the argument escalates, a young man with light hair intervenes. He is Edwin Varshin, the second prince of the kingdom and the protagonist of the game, a skilled magic swordsman. Edwin scolds William for causing a scene in public. Yumiella introduces herself politely, mentioning her origin from the Dulkness County, and Edwin responds formally, though internally doubting her. Yumiella sighs, irritated because everyone seems to believe she cheated. Edwin tries to justify that reaching level 99 before enrollment is practically impossible, while another young man appears, Oswald Grimzard, another of the game's targets. He also doubts her, suggesting she should have come up with a more convincing lie. Still, Yumiella reaffirms that her level is real, while everyone continues to be suspicious. Oswald, William, and Edwin, who are childhood friends, gather and chat casually, calling each other by nicknames. Meanwhile, Yumiella watches from a distance, not wanting to get involved with them. Edwin comments that soon the Academy will give its verdict on her situation and says he has no interest in associating with liars. Thinking to herself, Yumiella recalls a commoner capable of using light magic and wonders if she should approach her for help. Yumiella returns early to the dormitory and collapses from exhaustion, saying she's worn out. Her maid comments that the party hasn't ended yet, but Yumiella replies that she wouldn't have gotten along with anyone anyway. Thinking, she admits she didn't even participate. The maid insists that, without making friends, it would be difficult for her, and that it would eventually concern even her master. While drinking tea, Yumiella thinks about her disagreement with the second prince. Her maid comments that she heard he's in the same class as her. Changing the subject, Yumiella asks if the maid knows the meaning of pseudo-metropolitan. The response confirms her suspicion that it was a term used to provoke the Dulkness family, but the maid tries to reassure her, saying it wasn't something to worry about. The maid explains that the term pseudo-metropolitan is used to criticize provincial nobles who live in the capital without an official position. Since the Dulkness family doesn't hold an important position, they are seen this way. Yumiella quickly understands, sighing, and summarizes that they are considered useless nobles who leave their lands in the hands of governors and spend their time enjoying the capital. The next day, during class, Yumiella realizes that she has been completely isolated by her classmates. Sitting alone, she thinks it might be easier to spend the next 3 years being invisible. Observing the movement, she notices many are still whispering about her level 99, suspicious and curious. With her sharpened senses, she can even hear malicious whispers from a distance. While Yumiella observes from afar, she sees Alicia being praised by the 3 boys for her ability to use light magic to heal. They quickly approach her, offering help if needed. Seeing this interaction, Yumiella begins to wonder if her presence changed the course of the game, as at this stage they shouldn't be this close. She clenches the table, frustrated by the unexpected situation. Yumiella watches Alicia from a distance, knowing that her light magic is an important weapon against the Demon Lord because it's the weakness of dark magic. Despite recognizing its importance, Yumiella admits that she doesn't feel like getting closer. Alicia, with her optimistic and cheerful personality, naturally draws attention, further solidifying her role as the protagonist, especially being a rare commoner with magical abilities. During the sword practice class, Yumiella is given a wooden sword and finds the object very simple, even recalling a school trip memory. The instructor announces that everyone will participate in simulated battles to assess their skills. Without wasting time, he calls Yumiella to be the first to fight, highlighting her level 99. Upon realizing who called her, she recognizes it's the same man from the entrance ceremony. William decides to be Yumiella's opponent in the practice, excited and confident, spinning the wooden sword in the air. Yumiella watches from afar, thinking that all the knights seem excessively warm-hearted. As the fight is about to begin, she grips her sword and thinks coldly about how she should hold back so as not to go overboard. Yumiella remembers that when she was hunting monsters as a child, her magic and physical attacks were always absurdly strong. With that in mind, she prepares for the duel, knowing she would need to hold back so she doesn't hurt anyone. William, confident, warns her that it's still time to back out, but Yumiella thinks that line should be hers. While they face off, she reflects that his survival would entirely depend on how much she could restrain herself. Yumiella warns that she has never used a sword before, but says she can fight this way. William, impatient, mocks her, asking if she's already giving up. When the duel begins, he charges at her, warning that he won't go easy just because she's a girl, threatening that she might leave with a few broken bones. Meanwhile, Yumiella remains calm, easily observing his attack. As William attacks, Yumiella watches closely and notices how slow he is to her. With quick and light movements, she effortlessly dodges his strikes, moving through the battlefield as if she were just playing around. William eventually falls to the ground, completely defeated. While Yumiella watches in silence, the instructor tries to end the fight, declaring Yumiella the winner. Not fully understanding if she should continue, she asks if the class is over. William, furious and bleeding, refuses to accept the defeat and accuses Yumiella of pretending to be inexperienced to humiliate him. With little patience, Yumiella ends the fight with a single strong blow, throwing William far away. The girls are startled by her strength, while Yumiella comments to herself that he wasn't as tough as he appeared. A student watches from afar, already planning to place all the blame on the teacher if anything bad happens to William after this beating. With William unconscious on the ground, Yumiella checks that he's still alive and considers taking him to the infirmary. Before she can act, Edwin approaches, saying he'll take care of it. He picks up William and warns that everyone should train on their own until he returns, prohibiting any further fights while he's gone. With the heavy atmosphere, Yumiella realizes that everyone is afraid of her. Trying not to draw attention, she decides to imitate the others and start practicing sword strikes. Thinking to herself, she believes she even went easy on the fight, since William is still in one piece. In the end, the instructor doesn't return to class, and everyone just watches Yumiella in silence. During magic training, the excited instructor explains that everyone must demonstrate their skills by hitting a target with one of the magical elements. She mentions that the 4 basic elements are fire, wind, water, and earth. Even hitting the target with just one of these would be enough to pass. Alicia impresses everyone by using light magic, something very rare, and receives several compliments. Soon after, Oswald also demonstrates his skill, attacking the target with several earth projectiles, hitting precisely. Yumiella watches silently, thinking that the target must be quite resistant to withstand so many consecutive hits. Oswald is praised by the instructor for mastering all 4 elements, being considered a genius in magic. While everyone eagerly waits for Yumiella's demonstration, she thinks to herself that she doesn't understand much about these elements. She remembers that her talent has always been focused on physical strength and dark magic, which makes her a little nervous about what to do now. Yumiella asks if she could destroy the target instead of just hitting it. The instructor responds that it would be difficult, as the target's armor was made with a special process, and even Oswald couldn't break it. Still, she gives her permission. Thinking that only royal court mages can destroy something like this, Yumiella stays calm and prepares, confident she can do it easily. Yumiella summons a small black flame in her hand, which initially causes doubt among the others. Oswald even mocks her, thinking it's just a weak beam, but soon the fire begins to melt the armor of the target, leaving everyone surprised and in shock as they realize the true power of that magic. Yumiella's black flame completely melts the target, acting like acid without emitting heat. Everyone is shocked to realize it was dark magic. She admits that she doesn't get along well with other elements, but is an expert in this magic. The instructor tries to ease the mood, saying that dark magic users have served the court in the past. Still, some students murmur in suspicion, while Umiela once again notices how her black hair and dark magic make her seem like a rare exception, like winning the lottery. At the end of class, Edwin appears holding a document, saying that the papers for Umiela's expulsion from the academy are ready. He declares that she is not fit to study there. Umiela realizes he had been absent to prepare this. While some try to argue that expelling her would be a waste since she is a rare dark magic user in level 99, the school director hesitates but feels pressured by the prince's decision. Umiela understands that they want to expel her no matter what, but questions if it would be wise for royalty to discard someone with such rare abilities. The instructor suggests that, to prove her level 99, she should show the full extent of her power. Without hesitation, Umiela agrees and says she will shoot her magic to the sky, ready to demonstrate all her strength. Umiela asks for permission to use her magic, and Edwin, irritated, tells her to just continue. Thinking about what she would do, she remembers that the last time she let everything out, she created a massive crater in the forest. Still, she prepares to use the Supreme Dark Magic, a skill that, in the game, only the Demon Lord and she herself could use. Umiela summons her supreme magic, creating a gigantic black hole in the sky. The black sphere dominates the landscape, showing the incredible size of the power she released. The sky above the academy turns into a vacuum, with the air and everything around being sucked into the black hole created by Umiela. Everyone panics while she, calm, approaches Edwin and asks with a smile if that demonstration is enough for him to accept that she is truly level 99. The day after the black hole incident, Umiela is summoned to the royal capital. With a serious expression, she arrives at the castle for a direct audience with the king, formally announced by the guards as she walks into the throne room. As she walks towards the throne, Umiela hears the guards whispering about her black hair and her being a dulkness, which irritates her internally. When she arrives before the king and queen, the king orders her to lift her head. Umiela obeys and observes closely, thinking she really is standing before the king and queen. The king says he has heard about the problems at the academy and admits that both his son and the instructors acted rudely. Umiela realizes that he doesn't show prejudice because of her black hair, which makes her feel a little relieved. To everyone's surprise, the king slightly bows and apologizes, leaving Umiela unsure how to react, trying to respond politely. The king asks Umiela to raise her head and explains that it would be unfair to judge her hastily since there are methods to confirm her level, such as the instrument used in the ceremony. Even so, he admits that some subordinates still doubt her, because it's hard to believe that such a delicate young woman could be level 99. He then prepares to make a decision. The king decides that the judgment about Umiela will be made by the captain of the knights, Adolf, the strongest in the kingdom. Umiela recognizes the name, remembering that in the game, it was necessary to be between levels 60 and 70 to face him, so she knows he is really strong. With respect, she prepares to use all her power in a single blow, wanting to finish this quickly. Without warning, Adolf attacks Umiela by surprise. She is confused, not knowing whether to defend herself or counterattack, as she is standing before the king. Thinking quickly, she decides to just dodge by, tilting her body while preparing to act if necessary. Adolf sheaths his sword and admits that Umiela is truly level 99, praising how she managed to think and dodge the attack easily, something even regular knights couldn't do. The king also praises her physical abilities. They then ask Umiela to demonstrate her magic, and she agrees politely. Umiela summons her dark magic, creating a shadow sphere with several black spikes rising from the ground. The king watches, impressed by the rarity of the magic. The atmosphere grows heavy, and even the court mage feels uncomfortable with the sinister aura emanating from the spell, making it clear the dangerous power she controls. The court mage explains that dark magic is just another type of element, like fire, water, earth, and wind. It's weak against light magic, but very strong against the 4 basic elements. The danger, he says, depends on who uses it, because it is rare, and the user's dark appearance. People have created prejudices over time. The king still questions the use of dark magic by demons, but the court mage says there are similar reports for light magic, with no concrete evidence. The king comments that the fear of the unknown causes people to reject things like dark magic, and perhaps also black hair. Umiela is surprised, realizing that both the king and the chief mage were guiding the conversation on purpose to try to calm her down and make her feel accepted in that environment. The king asks Yumiella to explain how she managed to reach such a high level. Without thinking too much, she tells him that she simply found the most efficient method to train. She defeated demons in the forests of her territory, gathered money, bought growth items, entered dungeons alone, and even used a flute to summon demons and defeat them in sequence. She speaks simply, but the way she describes it seems absurd to any normal person. After hearing Yumiella's explanation, everyone in the room is shocked. They discover that she faced dungeons alone and used a flute to summon demons and didn't even carry a protective amulet, something essential for any adventurer. Adolf admits that he could never do something like that without feeling terrified. The king asks if Adolf could replicate what she did, but even he acknowledges it would be impossible. Yumiella, innocent, doesn't understand why everyone is so frightened. The king asks Yumiella to use her powers as the kingdom's sword, offering rewards like titles, lands, or even entry into the royal family. Yumiella agrees, but internally understands that now that they've recognized her level 99, they will never let her leave the country easily. She feels that, in a way, she is being chained to the kingdom. Yumiella replies to the king, saying that her only wish is to have a peaceful life where everyone lives with their basic needs met. The king agrees to her request and promises to do his best to ensure that peace. Even so, Yumiella thinks that, in the future, she plans to flee to another country if she grows tired of that place. In the end, her audience with the king ends calmly. After the audience with the king, Yumiella is taken to another room without understanding why. There, she learns she's been invited to tea with the queen, something she didn't even know existed. The queen greets her with a smile and thanks her for attending, explaining that the king would have liked to join, but he was busy. Yumiella politely introduces herself to the queen and thanks her for the invitation. The queen, smiling warmly, asks her to feel at ease, saying that the meeting was informal and that whatever was said there would stay in that room. Yumiella notices that the queen is wearing simpler clothing than before, but gets a bad feeling when the queen warns that she will reveal information she wouldn't normally tell anyone. The queen offers cookies and praises Yumiella's behavior in front of the king, saying that both she and the king liked her a lot. Yumiella, a little awkward, thanks her. Curious, she asks why they trust her so much, and the queen explains that ambitious people are dangerous. But Yumiella seems to want distance from the royalty, which makes her trustworthy in their eyes. Without beating around the bush, the queen reveals that in 2 years the demon lord will rise again. She asks for Yumiella's help in defeating him, saying that this information is known only by the royal family and a few nobles. Yumiella is surprised to hear this. Yumiella confirms that she understands the situation about the demon lord's resurgence and agrees to cooperate. The queen thanks her, saying that, since it's Yumiella, she preferred to be direct. Meanwhile, Yumiella thinks to herself, wondering if she's overreacting, but also considers that, in the worst-case scenario, she could simply eliminate everything if necessary. The plan to face the demon lord is revealed. According to legends, he can control demons using dark power, and a confrontation is inevitable. The kingdom plans to form a defense army to protect civilians and an elite troop to face the demon lord. The kingdom's defenses will be under the command of the first prince, Morris, and there will be a total war involving knights, soldiers, and nobles. They don't know the size of the enemy's army, but they know it'll be a serious threat. The mission to defeat the demon lord is considered the royal family's responsibility, something that is part of the kingdom's origin. Therefore, the task will be entrusted to a select group. The team will be led by the second Prince Edwin, along with Adolf, the captain of the knights, some other elite knights, Alicia, who masters light magic, and also Yumiella, who is surprised to hear her name called. Yumiella thinks she's lucky because if she defeats the demon lord, while accompanied by the others, she can avoid getting involved in power struggles, as long as she doesn't draw attention to herself. When asked for her honest opinion, she comments that the absence of Captain Adolf in the defense line is concerning, as the knights are a powerful force, especially under his leadership. The queen explains that Captain Adolf, being level 60, is crucial to facing the demon lord, as even soldiers at level 30 couldn't stand a chance. Even though they don't know the real strength of the enemy, the plan is to form a combat group with levels between 60 and 70. Yumiella thinks that even if the enemy's army is weak, she wants to ensure the kingdom isn't invaded. Internally, she jokes that if she could multiply herself, she would handle everything alone. Yumiella explains that if she, being level 99, joins the subjugation squad, they would defeat the demon lord without any issues. With that, Adolf could focus on protecting the population along with the knights. The queen enthusiastically agrees and already envisions the group's formation. Edwin, Yumiella, Alicia, William, and Oswald. She asks Yumiella what she thinks of this formation. The Queen says that Yumiella will have more opportunities to interact with the group at the Academy, and Yumiella, uncomfortable, wonders how things got to this point. Thinking practically, she feels that Prince Edwin is still too weak to face the Demon Lord, thinking that even Prince Morris would be a better choice in terms of level. Still, the Queen assures her that everything will be fine, leaving Yumiella confused. The Queen speaks with great confidence, saying that Prince Edwin can achieve anything if he wants to, clapping her hands energetically. Yumiella observes that she seems unable to see her son's flaws, thinking that she doesn't want to be like that when she grows up. The Queen explains that, as a prince, Edwin naturally wants to achieve military feats, and says she believes in him because he is the king's and her son. She then changes the subject and invites Yumiella to talk about something else. The Queen proposes that Yumiella take the position of saint and marry Edwin if the Demon Lord's subjugation is successful. Yumiella immediately refuses, saying that the offer is too good for her. The Queen then suggests Morris, but Yumiella also refuses without hesitation, leaving the Queen holding back laughter. Yumiella thinks that marrying into royalty would be anything but a peaceful life. Even so, the Queen already expected her refusal, reminding Yumiella that she had said before that she wanted nothing. The Queen comments that if Yumiella accepted becoming the saint, the prejudice against black hair would probably decrease as well. The two continue sitting, staring at each other in silence, in a serious atmosphere. Yumiella thanks the Queen for her concern, but makes it clear that just the sentiment was enough for her. She thinks she will flee abroad if things get bad. The Queen explains that their faction isn't fully united, and that from now on many nobles will try to pull her to their side, especially after the news that she's level 99. The Queen explains to Yumiella how the kingdom's political division works. On one side, there's the main moderate faction, which supports the king. On the other, there's the radical faction, led by Duke Hilrose, who wants war to gain more power. Yumiella discovers that her own family is part of the radicals, which makes her thoughtful. The Queen promises to protect Yumiella from being forced by her own family to marry or be adopted by the radicals. She will issue a decree to prevent that until Yumiella graduates from the academy. She also warns that other nobles and even foreign countries might try to take advantage of the situation, so she asks Yumiella to stay away from the radical faction and stay alert. Yumiella understands and plans to resolve the issue with her family by then. The Queen asks Yumiella to enjoy her youth at the academy and promises to send someone trustworthy to help her if needed. Yumiella politely agrees. Afterward, the two continue chatting more casually, talking about her power level. Even so, Yumiella realizes that the Queen wants in some way to bind her to the kingdom as a weapon. In the end, Yumiella is dismissed in the evening, taking with her even a gift that the Queen gave her. Yumiella is excited thinking about the possibility of manipulating demons, but soon decides it would be more practical to defeat them directly. When she arrives home, she's greeted by her maid, who brings a pile of marriage proposal portraits sent by her family. The news of her level had spread quickly. Yumiella asks Rita to prepare some black tea while handing her a box of fine sweets she received from the Queen. Rita is shocked by the quality of the sweets, and Yumiella offers to share, as she can't eat everything alone. The two enjoy the sweets, savoring the taste. A week after being called to the royal palace, Yumiella becomes popular at the academy, especially among the high-class children. Despite the numerous invitations to parties and teas, she politely declines, finding everything annoying. Even so, she notices that some things around her have started to change. Even her classmates, who used to avoid Yumiella, start talking to her, giving her a polite good morning. Despite this, she notices that they still see her as someone dangerous and unpredictable. Alicia, when crossing paths with Yumiella, freezes, unsure how to react, leaving Yumiella confused about how exactly she is viewed by everyone. The prince and his friends only apologized coldly to Yumiella the day after the audience with the king and queen. After that, they didn't exchange any more words. Now very popular, Yumiella receives another invitation while thinking, disheartened, that everything is repeating itself. An enthusiastic nobleman tries to convince Yumiella to use her power to conquer neighboring countries and promises to handle the politics while calling her his wife. Yumiella, unresponsive, thinks that being approached by the radicals has now become part of her daily routine. The day after the audience at the palace, Yumiella begins to be surrounded by young people from noble families. The radicals try to pull her to their side, offering jewelry and marriage proposals, but she declines everything politely. Meanwhile, the moderates are easier to deal with with boys bringing sweets and girls inviting her to tea parties, avoiding any political talk. One of the more persistent radicals tries to convince Yumiella, speaking about dominating the continent and offering marriage along with wealth. Despite all the chatter, she simply refuses without hesitation, keeping a cold expression. Yumiella gives a refusal so direct it seems like a special denial technique, saying that her ideal partner would be someone stronger than herself. The boy looks dejected but quickly resumes talking, insisting that intelligence is more important than strength. She only grows more irritated with the situation. The boy tries to argue that he would leave violence to those who are strong, while he would govern using intelligence. Yumiella, with a cold gaze, questions why he isn't the best in the class if he's so talented. He tries to justify himself, but she keeps pressing, asking who would really run the continent if he were to rule. He confidently responds that he would do it alone. Yumiella stares at the boy and asks if he understands that taking control of the continent would mean overthrowing the current royal family. She explains that what he suggested is treason against the Varskine royal family, something that is punishable by death in the kingdom. The boy becomes visibly nervous and tries to justify himself, but is already in trouble. Yumiella says she'll pretend she didn't hear anything, but warns that it would be better for him to stay away from her, as there could be people listening to their conversation. She also comments that just being with her could make him suspicious. The boy becomes desperate and runs away, while Yumiella watches calmly, thinking that it's a good thing that self-proclaimed genius was an idiot. Yumiella walks down the hall thinking that, although dealing with so many things every day is tiring, she is managing to avoid conflicts with the prince and the heroine, so she is still on the right path to living peacefully. She remembers that all she has left to do is stay away from the Hillrose family. Shortly afterward, a girl with light hair appears, introduced as Elanora Hillrose, the only daughter of the leader of the radical faction and the queen among the students. Yumiella hears a voice calling her and imagines it's just another tea invitation. Elanora Hillrose appears excited, saying that she's wanted to talk to Yumiella for a long time. Yumiella is surprised to find her and observes the girl glowing with excitement. Analyzing the situation, she feels that Elanora seems like the type who is hard to deal with. Yumiella thinks it would be difficult to avoid Elanora forever since they are schoolmates. Elanora, excited, grabs her hand and invites her for tea in the hall. Yumiella accepts, since she has some free time, and thanks her for the invitation. While the party is already prepared and the sweets served, Yumiella sits in the hall, thinking that there's no way around these social gatherings, as she's terrible with fashion, trends, and relationships. Even so, she decides to at least try talking a little. Elanora, excited, calls out to her, ready to start the conversation. Elanora starts talking excitedly about perfumes and romantic stories, while Yumiella listens, replying politely with short phrases like, "Really?" and "That's amazing," just to keep the conversation going. Even though she's not very interested, she keeps smiling and encouraging her, making Elanora even more excited. Surrounded by her followers, Elanora changes the tone of the conversation and says she wants to clear up an important misunderstanding. Yumiella, who until now thought it was just chatter, realizes that she's now taking the situation seriously. The girls around them whisper excitedly, surprised by what's to come. Elanora suddenly makes a dramatic request for Yumiella to give up on Prince Edwin. While saying this, she offers Yumiella the chance to join her group. Yumiella, confused, repeats the prince's name softly, clearly not understanding where this story came from. Elanora insists, saying that Yumiella is not suited for Prince Edwin and asks her to back off to avoid a rivalry. She also accuses Yumiella of pretending to be innocent. Yumiella observes everything coldly, thinking that the one who should be hearing these complaints is the real heroine who is always stuck to the prince. Yumiella explains that she has never spoken to the prince and already refused the queen's proposal, but avoids going into details to avoid causing confusion. She remembers that the prince's apology wasn't anything significant. In the end, Elanora seems satisfied, thinking that Yumiella has acknowledged her place. Elanora tries to convince Yumiella to join her group, saying she would allow it if Yumiella promised to stay away from Prince Edwin. Yumiella politely declines, leaving Eleonora surprised and suspicious, thinking that Yumiella is just pretending to be uninterested. Meanwhile, Yumiella thinks about how tiring all of this is. Yumiella, already irritated, thinks that both marrying the prince and joining the duke are things she wants to avoid. To get out of the situation, she praises Eleonora, saying that she and Prince Edwin make a good match. Eleonora gets all excited and starts proudly talking about her dances with the prince, while Yumiella watches coldly, thinking she is very naive. Yumiella, tired after everything she's been through, enjoys the meal, which seems even tastier. Even so, she notices that her classmates still keep their distance from her. She thinks she doesn't mind being just a background character during her years at school, preferring to go unnoticed as much as possible. Yumiella observes two girls talking excitedly and recognizes one of them as Jessica. She remembers that in the original game, Jessica was supposed to become Alicia's first friend, but she notices that she has never seen the two of them together until now. While thinking about this, someone approaches and asks to sit with her. With a simple "go ahead," Yumiella feels that she is finally starting to close the distance between herself and her classmates. As Yumiella sits down to finally connect with her classmates, one of the girls, looking at her very seriously, asks directly if she is the Demon King. The other two girls at the table look surprised, while Yumiella stands still, speechless at the unexpected question. The classmates react with shock when they hear Demon King, staring at Yumiella strangely. She realizes that in this country, discrimination against black hair is strong. While trying to understand where this suspicion came from, the blonde girl reveals that she heard about the resurrection of the Demon King through Ed. Yumiella becomes suspicious since this information was supposed to be secret. She calmly denies the accusation, asking what they were talking about. Yumiella is stunned to realize that Prince Edwin shared confidential information with Alicia. Thinking quickly, she realizes that Alicia simply deduced she was the Demon King because of her black hair. Alicia, a bit awkward, just confirms that she heard about the resurrection of the Demon King in 2 years. Yumiella questions what the real connection is between having black hair and being the Demon King, while noticing that the conversation is starting to draw the attention of other students. Yumiella tries to argue, saying that dark magic isn't inherently evil, and that they even covered this in class. Alicia, not entirely sure, hesitates. Suddenly, Edwin and his friends appear dramatically, accusing Yumiella of doing something to Alicia. Even though she did nothing, Yumiella watches irritated and thinks that, in the end, she is the one being attacked here. Yumiella watches the boys argue among themselves, realizing that they clearly know about the future resurrection of the Demon King. One of them, angry and impulsive, slams the table and starts shouting that she should be brought to justice before she commits any harm. He tries to justify that, even without a crime yet. It would be right to act now. Yumiella just thinks that she's dealing with a stubborn person who is determined to make noise without any real reason. Yumiella looks at the three angry boys and thinks that she won't get anywhere arguing with these idiots. One of them replies that he believes her only because Alicia said something, showing that he is completely blinded by affection. Seeing this, Yumiella realizes that their adoration for Alicia is greater than she imagined. Yumiella thinks that, in the game, when the target felt pressured or insecure, they would end up opening up to Alicia. Now, with someone like her emerging and surpassing everyone, these events were automatically triggered. Even though it seems absurd, she admits it's her fault. Meanwhile, the glasses-wearing boy says that, if she were the Demon King herself, it would explain the absurd strength she has. Yumiella admits that she is powerful, maybe even enough to rival the Demon King himself, but says that everyone here is extremely weak. She tells them that if they want to have any chance of defeating her or facing the real enemy, they need to get stronger. Then, she asks Alicia to focus on improving her light magic, since the Demon King uses dark magic. Meanwhile, Alicia and the others are confused, beginning to notice something strange in the way she speaks. Yumiella decides that, as a self-proclaimed master of leveling up, she can't just leave them on their own. Thinking that maybe this will also improve the image they have of her, she confidently introduces herself and says she wants to teach everyone the basics of leveling up. The class is confused by the unexpected declaration. Yumiella starts teaching in a very direct way, telling everyone to equip growth items and forget about protections. She instructs them to play the demon summoning flute with full force and prioritize facing offensive demons, because they are easier to defeat. She even says that Alicia should go alone to dark dungeons, using her light magic. Her speech is so loud that even the students nearby end up hearing. After finishing her speech about leveling up, Yumiella feels satisfied, thinking she helped a lot. Meanwhile, the prince is trembling in shock, completely speechless. When he finally speaks, he yells, asking if she was trying to kill everyone with those absurd instructions. Yumiella, not really understanding the problem, just thinks that maybe she needs to help them even more. The prince refuses Yumiella's help, saying that he will get stronger on his own, and walks away with his friends. Yumiella believes her image must have improved after being kind to them. But in reality, the other students start whispering thinking she is dangerous and came from a dark place. In the end, she realizes that her attempt to get closer to the others only made things worse. Yumiella becomes worried about Alicia's crazy ideas and starts to think that maybe she also reincarnated in this world as herself. While eating, Yumiella remembers that Alicia quickly got close to the princes and other important characters, which would be strange for a common person. She decides that she needs to investigate this further, but also recognizes that her own existence might have changed the course of history. After a whole day of observation, Yumiella concludes that Alicia is just a common and well-mannered girl. In the game, Alicia had an innocent and pure personality, entering the academy to use her magic to help others. Not being used to aristocratic customs, she had difficulty fitting in. But with the help of the boys who were her targets in the game, she gradually opened up. Yumiella observes that Alicia is cheerful and kind to everyone, even to animals. Even when no one is looking, she continues to be kind. Despite this, Yumiella notices that Alicia barely socializes with other girls and is always surrounded by the three boys, which might make it hard for others to approach her. Yumiella decides to follow Alicia, but before she does, she notices something she can't ignore: the cat she saw. Excited, she runs to get closer to the little animal. Using her ability to hide her presence, she tries to approach without scaring the cat, applying techniques like being silent, not moving abruptly, and avoiding direct eye contact. Yumiella gets closer to the cat, trying to imitate its sounds to call it, but the animal quickly gets scared and runs away. Not surprisingly, she thinks that since reincarnating as Yumiella, all animals seem to be afraid of her. She sighs, feeling a strange sense of déjà vu while watching the cat run away. Yumiella notices a boy standing by the entrance, watching in silence. He was her classmate, although she didn't quite remember his name. The boy, embarrassed, covers his face and tries to pretend he didn't see anything. But Yumiella is sure he witnessed the whole scene of the cat running away. Still confused, she wonders if he really saw everything. Yumiella tries to cover up what happened, speaking quickly and saying that, in fact, the cat didn't run from her. Without giving him time to react, she runs off, leaving the boy confused. While searching for where she went, he quickly finds her looking out the window of one of the buildings, impressed by how easily he located her. Yumiella tries to sneak out the window, hoping he didn't see her, but is surprised when he jumps and catches her mid-air. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Alicia hears about an old law that governed the behavior of nobles. Not quite understanding, thinking it sounded like a scene from an anime game, Yumiella watches from a distance as Alicia is taught by the prince, thinking that she must have entered Edwin's route. She thinks it would be good for the kingdom if Alicia helped the prince. Meanwhile, the prince, suspicious, directly asks Alicia why she believes Lady Yumiella is the Demon Lord. The prince explains that his father made sure Lady Yumiella is not the Demon Lord. Alicia is confused, thinking that Yumiella has black hair, and that shouldn't be a reason to accuse her. Trying to justify herself, she draws a bizarre image to illustrate her suspicion, leaving the prince even more confused. The girl explains that she sees Yumiella as a scary black mist, even though no one else seems to notice it. She believes this strange vision might be linked to her ability to use light magic. Meanwhile, Yumiella, observing from the window, notices the movement and becomes suspicious. The boy explains to her that even if Yumiella is not the Demon Lord, she is still an unusual person since she reached level 99, something extremely difficult. He realizes that Alicia got involved in the royal family's problems because of this, and apologizes for putting her in this situation. Meanwhile, Alicia tries to cheer up, but she seems a little nervous about all this conversation. Alicia becomes very excited and says she wants to do everything she can to help the world with her magic, even though she is just a country girl. She asks Ed to take care of her while she works hard. They get excited and agree to defeat the Demon Lord together. From a distance, Yumiella watches the scene in silence. Yumiella watches Alicia and Ed from afar, who are very close to each other. She confirms to herself that she is really in a typical anime game. Thinking about the situation, she believes Alicia is not someone reincarnated like her. While reflecting, a maid greets her back home with a respectful salutation. Yumiella arrives home and is greeted by the maid Rita, who comments on how she seems to be enjoying her days. Rita asks if she should prepare tea while handing over sweets sent by the queen and documents from the housemaster. Yumiella just sighs tiredly, looking at the paperwork without much desire, and ends up throwing everything onto the table, ignoring Rita's warning to at least take a look. The next day after class, Yumiella is called to the headmaster's office. She is surprised by the voice she hears and notices that something feels different. Upon entering, she finds an elegant man who introduces himself as Ronald, the new headmaster who just took the position. He greets her with a calm smile, showing respect, letting out a loud scream. Yumiella introduces herself politely to the new headmaster, who smiles and explains that the previous headmaster resigned for some reason. He says she doesn't need to worry about it. Despite the friendly smile, Yumiella feels that he's trying to get her to let her guard down. Yumiella sits in front of the new headmaster, who explains that he was sent by the king's order and knows everything about the future resurrection of the demon lord. While they have tea, she thinks he seems trustworthy, but also very suspicious. The headmaster comments on the problems caused by Prince Edwin, and Yumiella silently agrees, remembering how the prince spoke about kingdom secrets in public. While Yumiella remembers being accused of being the demon lord, the new headmaster comments that the prince and his friends have been acting erratically lately. She thinks that maybe it's her fault. The headmaster confirms this idea, explaining that, since they have always been superior to everyone else, they now don't know how to deal with being surpassed by her. The headmaster mentions that, even among the students and at the palace, there are concerns that Yumiella's power might be a risk. Despite this, he assures her that the king knows she is not the demon lord, so there is no reason for her to worry. While listening, Yumiella reflects that it's natural for them to be suspicious of her, given that she appeared out of nowhere with level 99. Yumiella asks if the royal family has deeper information about the demon lord, but the headmaster evades the question, making her even more suspicious. While he calmly praises the tea, Yumiella thinks that the king must have some concrete proof that she is not the demon lord, since he never believed she could be a threat, even with all the commotion it caused. Yumiella is confused, not fully understanding the situation. She becomes even more suspicious of the new headmaster, realizing that he knows a lot about the prince, and seems to be someone close to the king. The man, pretending to be humble, offers direct help if she has questions for the king, which only makes Yumiella more suspicious, thinking that he might have even read her mind. Yumiella feels it's strange to be around the new headmaster, who praises her strength and says the king likes her. He explains that the purpose of their conversation was just to get to know each other better, but he takes the opportunity to ask her to help the teachers in the next field exercise, which is actually a tutorial on dungeon capturing, a safe way for students to train and hunt demons. Yumiella understands that, being level 99, it would be strange for her to participate in the field exercise like the other students. The headmaster only asks her to assist the teacher in case of an emergency, since the activity will take place in a forest near the capital, with only weak demons appearing. The class will be divided between metropolitan and provincial nobles, and Yumiella will supervise the provincial nobles, since there's a big difference in motivation between the two groups. The headmaster explains that metropolitan nobles usually inherit positions or become civil servants, so they don't put much effort into leveling up. Provincial nobles, on the other hand, need to get stronger because they often have to protect their territories themselves. Still, there are training courses to ensure that everyone reaches at least level 40. Yumiella questions if this wouldn't slow down the team that will face the demon lord. Yumiella begins to think that level 40 is still too low for what lies ahead, since there are only 2 years left until the demon lord's resurrection. While the headmaster agrees that they might be pushing too hard, she remembers that, in the game, the protagonist group was made up of metropolitan nobles. Curious, Yumiella is eager to see how the provincial nobles managed to level up so much. The headmaster warns Yumiella to only supervise the activity, making it clear that she shouldn't act impulsively. Even though she says she understands, she gets confused when he mentions that he has heard of her training methods and suggests that it's better to be cautious. He says this with a suspicious smile, making the situation even stranger. On the day of the field exercise, the students attack an enemy in groups, using excessive force. Yumiella watches from afar, thinking the activity is very calm. The supervisor warns those who used magic or got injured not to forget to take their potions, and then announces a 10-minute break for everyone to rest. During the break, the students chat and rest while Yumiella brings potions to those in need. Some classmates look at her suspiciously, but she just observes them in silence. Shortly afterward, she comments to herself that their work is very inefficient. Yumiella recognizes the boy from the previous time who tried to approach the cat. He introduces himself as Patrick Ashbatten. Soon, they start discussing combat tactics, and Patrick says that if the students split into the vanguard and rear guard, they could face a larger number of demons. Yumiella confirms that this is a common strategy in his territory. Patrick explains that in their strategy, the front line holds the demons while the rear guard attacks, but they can also reverse the roles. Yumiella realizes that this way the students gain different experiences depending on the damage they inflict. She concludes that it is indeed harder to level up in groups, reinforcing in her mind that her solo training approach was the right one. Patrick observes the students and wonders if they will manage to handle the demons. Yumiella calmly takes out a demon summoning flute, saying she has a solution. Without hesitation, she blows into the flute while Patrick panics, realizing what she is about to do. After Yumiella blows into the flute, several demons appear, surprising everyone. Patrick quickly assumes leadership, organizing the students. He orders those with shields and spears to form the front line, while the mages attack from a distance. Even under pressure, he stays calm and gives instructions for the group to act efficiently. The demons advance through the forest, but the students react quickly. The spears are thrown at the creatures, and the mages begin channeling magic. Patrick gives the command to attack, and a rain of spells explodes over the enemies. He encourages everyone to keep the pressure up, maintaining the rhythm and formation. One of the students is hit by one of the wolves, but quickly reacts and strikes it with the spear. Patrick observes the situation and gives orders, telling them to reinforce their defenses and fall back to regroup. Even injured, the student confirms that he is fine and obeys, while the others raise their shields again. Yumiella watches the movements carefully, noticing Patrick's effort in leading the group. He stays firm, but all the students around him are already completely exhausted and trying to recover. Yumiella, with a curious and cold look, thinks that this is becoming interesting to her. Patrick, exhausted and irritated, questions Yumiella about what she just did, but she, calm, doesn't understand the reason for all the anger. After thinking for a moment, she realizes that he is frustrated because the mages in the rearguard used all their magic, making it harder for the group to advance. Unbothered, Yumiella says that she will take care of containing the demons for them, believing she has found someone who thinks like her. Yumiella positions herself in front of everyone, determined. She promises that she will stop all the demons and that they can finish the work in their own time, without rushing. With a powerful aura surrounding her body, she guarantees that no demon will even touch them. Yumiella uses her magic to bind all the demons with the Dark Bind spell. She waits calmly, telling them they can attack whenever they want. The other students are silent, murmuring and unsure how to react, while she just observes, confused. Patrick, trembling with nervousness, asks if that's really a rope. Yumiella explains that it's her magic, called Dark Bind, and that it only immobilizes the target without killing. She assures him that the demons are trapped and won't attack. Even so, Patrick remains suspicious, and sighing, he begins attacking the immobilized demons, while the other students just watch. Patrick shows that he's fine, and that Yumiella's magic isn't dangerous for them. Meanwhile, Yumiella wonders if her magic is really that scary. After they defeat the demons, Patrick asks her to warn him next time before using the summoning flute. Then, the group celebrates and is informed that the magic stones will be distributed in order of arrival. Yumiella praises Patrick's leadership, saying that he seems used to hunting demons. Patrick responds awkwardly, saying that he's the son of a marquis and has been through some battles before entering the academy. Yumiella is confused, but before the subject continues, a demon appears running to attack them. Yumiella acts quickly and pulls Patrick to protect him from the attack. With the demon already very close, Patrick reacts and punches hard, hitting the enemy squarely. Yumiella uses her healing magic on Patrick's injured arm, promising to make him as good as new. As the spell begins to take effect, she remembers that, in this world, healing is usually associated with light magic, but her ability is dark magic. The healing works, but the visual process is grotesque, with pops and pulses that aren't pleasant. Patrick seems uncomfortable but doesn't feel pain. After being healed, Patrick thanks her and says that he's fine. Yumiella comments, relieved that there are no side effects from using dark healing magic on someone with a different affinity. Curious, she asks why he threw himself in front of her. Patrick, a bit embarrassed, responds that he thought she was in danger. Yumiella is confused since she's level 99 and doesn't understand how anyone could think she would be at risk. Patrick calls Yumiella's attention, saying that she should take better care of herself since she doesn't even carry a protection amulet. Even though she doesn't understand the reason for his concern, she listens as he insists that it's better to be safe than sorry. Then she realizes that he really tried to protect her out of genuine concern. Yumiella, a bit hesitant, sincerely thanks him. She tightens her clothes, feeling something new. No one had ever done anything like this for her before. This makes her a little flushed, while students in the background still comment about what happened with the summoning flute. The next day after the field exercise, the black-haired protagonist is in the headmaster's office, having tea with him. The man comments on how the concept of healing also exists in dark magic, and she confirms, saying that she can even regenerate an arm. Meanwhile, another student overhears the conversation and becomes uncomfortable, questioning if this type of method is really acceptable. Elsewhere, Patrick is still thinking about the lecture he gave her the previous day, but acknowledges that she's showing more control now. The protagonist continues explaining to the headmaster that she has had her arm completely severed in combat and nearly lost her head as well. She thinks that if the strike had been just a little higher, not even dark magic would have helped. The headmaster listens attentively, surprised by the level of her experience. Then she changes the subject, asking how the prince's entourage performed in the exercise. The headmaster responds that they did well, especially Edwin, William, and Oswald, who managed to defeat demons. The headmaster comments that William rushed into the attack, while the other two dealt with the remaining enemies. The protagonist thinks it's no surprise since William doesn't work well in a group, even with his childhood friends. She then asks about Alicia. The headmaster replies that despite everyone praising the boys, Alicia didn't defeat a single demon. He explains that the most important thing for her right now is to train her light magic, which is exactly what got her into the academy, even though she is a commoner. The headmaster mentions that even if Alicia had been excited, it wouldn't have changed the outcome. He says the prince and the others probably just wanted to show off in front of her. Despite that, he emphasizes that they need Alicia to become a competent light mage. He says that he might end up needing the protagonist's help in the future. She responds that he can count on her when necessary, and already starts thinking of a plan to help Alicia, throwing her into a dungeon full of demons to force her to level up. The protagonist accepts the new task eagerly. The headmaster informs her that the Department of Magical Tools has asked for help to test the durability of their items. He explains that magical tools are objects imbued with magic, ranging from armor and weapons to everyday items like a lantern or a demon-summoning flute. She receives a sample to test and quickly notices that the material seems to be iron. The headmaster comments that the item is used for armor and that the durability test will be conducted by Captain Adolf. The protagonist stays silent after realizing she bent the metal too easily. The headmaster observes the situation with a neutral expression and tries to bend the same piece of metal but fails. He comments that maybe this could be a good way for her to train control over her strength. Still surprised, she says she will try to pay more attention to it next time. After the field exercise, the protagonist's school routine begins to change. Patrick, who hadn't interacted much before, starts striking up conversations with her now and then. They meet in the corridor and she asks why he was called. Before he could answer, someone calls him from afar and he has to go. She watches as he walks away, remembering the incident where he failed to use the demon summoning flute. During a practical class, the protagonist observes that Patrick seems to have many friends. While everyone organizes into pairs, she is left alone, used to it. But to her surprise, Patrick approaches and asks if he can pair up with her. She accepts, a little surprised, and thinks that he is kind enough to even join with someone as solitary as her. During the practice, Patrick shows his charisma and leadership, easily getting everyone to follow his instructions. The protagonist notices how his voice stands out and thinks that, for some reason, it affects her more than usual. After he thanks her for healing him, she downplays the gesture, saying he already had a potion and didn't need to worry. Still intrigued, she directly asks him if he really has friends, despite her initial impression. During the paired training, the two start exchanging light jabs, which surprises the protagonist. She has never gotten so close to someone since reincarnating in this world. While they fight, she observes Patrick's style, simple, direct, and extremely efficient. Even without elegance, his movements are so well executed that they seem beautiful. She realizes that he is much more skilled than she imagined, and wonders why her approach, which is also focused on results, seems so different. Yumiella ends up knocking Patrick down with too much force during their training, once again losing control of her own strength. She apologizes while quickly healing him. After the fight, they exchange thanks. Patrick says it wasn't a big challenge, but she affirms that she learned a lot by observing how he fights. recognizing that his technique is far superior to hers. Patrick asks why she still wants to get stronger, since she seems powerful enough. She responds that it depends a lot on her own speed and strength, and she feels there is much more out there than she knows. The world is not limited to what was in the game. When thinking about what could face her, the first name that comes to mind is the Demon Lord. They discuss a rumor that he will return in 2 years, but she says it's not just a supposition. She's sure it's true. Patrick doubts, thinking the king might be hiding something or that the prince is just deluded. Patrick reflects that it's hard to say anything with certainty, but the rumors about the return of the Demon Lord and the prince being deluded are only increasing. Additionally, the fact that Alicia was called to the royal palace has become a topic of discussion among everyone. The prince's affectionate behavior toward her is also attracting attention on campus. Meanwhile, Yumiella thinks about the rumors that call her the Demon Lord. Rather than fading, they came back stronger after the field exercise. She directly asks Patrick if he also believes it. Patrick responds firmly, saying that anyone who calls her the Demon Lord just because of her black hair and dark magic is ignorant. He also points out that the real Demon Lord should be a man, and that it's unfair for her to be judged by her appearance. He shares a childhood memory, telling her that he always hated the color of his own hair because they thought it was too dark, almost black. Even though his family said they didn't mind, it always bothered him. Yumiella listens quietly, touched by his words. Yumiella responds by saying that compared to her hair, Patrick's hair even looks whiter. He is surprised by the comment, and she explains that she admires the fact that he doesn't feel ashamed of who he is, despite everything. Patrick then declares that he will never look down on her because of her hair color, making it clear that he respects and admires her for being firm with her own identity. Yumiella thanks him, a little embarrassed by Patrick's compliment. He smiles and says that he thinks her black hair is very beautiful, and she returns the compliment, saying that his gray hair is charming as well. He invites her to continue the training, and she agrees. Soon after, she effortlessly throws an enemy during the exercise, leaving her classmates shocked by her strength. After accidentally knocking Patrick down with too much force again, Yumiella rushes over to him and starts healing him with magic. He sits up, saying that he's fine and the pain is gone. The classmates around them murmur, startled by the scene. Patrick praises her ability even though it's dark magic, and says that her healing works very well, despite the strange appearance. She remains silent, listening to his words, while he comments that he was lucky to be born with certain magical attributes, downplaying his own talent. Yumiella tries to explain that if she had the ability to use dark magic like they think, she would probably have hidden it. She says it's not easy to accept something like that openly. Patrick then remembers when she was confronted by a senior about the color of her hair. He says he was impressed by the calm and firm way she handled the situation, without losing her composure. He emphasizes that admiring who she is, without rejecting her own identity, is rare and worthy of respect. Patrick confesses that, at that moment, he couldn't help but be impressed by her strength. He quickly clarifies that he wasn't talking about the level of power itself, trying to avoid any misunderstandings. Yumiella, serious, responds that she's not that naive, but thanks him for his honesty. Patrick, confused, wonders if she really understood what he meant. The scene ends with a lighter atmosphere between them as the evening falls on the school. Lying in bed, Yumiella reflects alone. She realizes that she never really thought much about the real Yumiella before reincarnating in this body. Remembering Patrick's words, she wonders if, in his place, she would have tried to hide the ability to use dark magic. Doubts start to arise. Did the original Yumiella already have dark magic since birth? Yumiella begins to doubt the version of the game, which said that Yumiella's powers only awakened when she fell to the dark side. She considers the possibility that this might be wrong and that, in reality, the original Yumiella already had dark magic, but hid it during her time at the academy. Maybe she resented seeing the heroine, a user of light magic, being loved by everyone. Even with these hypotheses, Yumiella decides not to dwell on the past and focuses on the present instead. On the way to another training session, Patrick looks seriously at Yumiella and reminds her that she is prohibited from using the demon summoning flute. Another classmate joins the conversation, asking if she brought the item. She admits that she did, but promises that she won't use it. Patrick reinforces that she should not set the forest on fire for fun and reminds her that it's just training, not a war. She responds calmly, saying that she's assigned as the field healer that day. During the training, Yumiella sits off to the side, bored because there's nothing for her to do. She remembers that she should be supervising the activity and watches the group from a distance. She notices that everything seems to be going well, but observes something strange compared to the previous session. The students are becoming too confident, and she knows that it's precisely in those moments when they become most vulnerable. When a scream of fright echoes, she immediately identifies the danger, showing that her vision is excellent. Yumiella springs into action quickly when she perceives the problem. Renyun Shanam, healing the wounded efficiently. She tries to reassure everyone, saying that everything is fine. While performing the healing, some classmates react surprised by her sudden presence. Despite the situation being under control, she notices that the environment is too calm, different from when she used to train for real. She finds it strange how the others are acting so relaxed, and even questions why healers are always so well received. While she still feels a certain distance, Yumiella decides to use the demon summoning flute, thinking it's the right moment. When Patrick notices, he reacts in alarm and asks why she brought something so dangerous. She responds calmly, saying that it would only be dangerous if everyone stood still. She believes the students need a real challenge to evolve and reminds him that last time there were no casualties. Patrick reflects for a moment and, although reluctant, admits that she's right. Everyone seems ready for something tougher. Yumiella comments that the students are already strong enough to face a dungeon on their own. Patrick immediately reacts, calling the idea crazy and saying that no one in their right mind would do that. She remains silent for a moment, with a neutral expression, but inside she realizes that he just called her crazy. Still, she decides to maintain her stance and firm belief, convinced she's right. Yumiella insists that the current training method is inefficient, saying it's a waste for several students to attack weak demons at the same time. For her, her own identity is at stake, so she proposes they face stronger enemies. She reminds Patrick that he had agreed with this idea before, but he hesitates, uncertain. Still, she realizes that she needs a way to keep everyone alert, and as she gets an idea, she becomes excited. Meanwhile, Patrick remains suspicious, with a worried expression. Yumiella comes up with an unusual idea. She says she no longer needs the demon summoning flute. Instead, she plans to purposely injure the students and then heal them, thinking that will make them more alert. Patrick panics at the absurd proposal, but she assures him that no one will likely die. To decide, she proposes a vote among the students. Would they prefer the flute or suffer serious injuries? The group chooses the flute without hesitation, winning by a large majority. While the others train, Yumiella observes in silence and realizes that she got too excited with the idea of strengthening the students. She admits to herself that she completely forgot about etiquette and manners, which could bring problems. Even though she doesn't care much about her own family's reputation, she recognizes that Patrick's social status is higher than hers, being the son of a marquis, while she is just the daughter of a count. Even though she feels her family deserves any consequences, she knows that provoking the anger of the Ashbatan family could have serious repercussions. While watching the students train, Yumiella thinks to herself that she might become a little lonely if Patrick ends up hating her. Despite acting coldly and focusing on efficiency, she shows at this moment that she cares about the bond she shares with him, even if she doesn't openly admit it. While Patrick leads the group ahead, she continues observing from a distance, quietly. While watching the group train, Yumiella notices that Patrick is using wind magic to give clear commands and earth magic to stabilize the ground, ensuring no one loses balance. She's impressed by his skill in group battles, something she admits she can't replicate. Despite this, she feels embarrassed and doesn't know how she will face him after what happened. Still, she notices that the environment has calmed down and Patrick has managed to control the situation well. The classmates gather excitedly around Patrick, praising his wind magic skills and calling him amazing. Meanwhile, Yumiella tries to congratulate everyone, but her voice is drowned out by the general excitement. She remains silent, observing the scene with a neutral expression, until she notices Patrick smiling sincerely in the middle of the celebration. Yumiella watches Patrick surrounded by his classmates, feeling distant and isolated. She returns to the academy in silence, wondering if he might end up truly hating her. Walking through the hallways, she wonders what she should do. Sitting alone in the classroom, she remembers that in the past, this wouldn't have affected her, but now it feels different. The narration is interrupted by someone calling her name. Yumiella is called by Alicia in the hallway. A little surprised, she asks what happened. Alicia hesitates, but then bows deeply and apologizes for calling Yumiella the Demon Lord days ago. Alicia continues apologizing sincerely, leaving Yumiella surprised to see this side of her. While Yumiella thinks that the girl must be scared just to be near her, she also recognizes that Alicia is better than she imagined. But before the conversation continues, a boy suddenly appears, shouting for Yumiella to stay away from Alicia. The boy directly accuses Yumiella, saying that she used the demon's summoning flute to deliberately put the whole class at risk, as if she were trying to kill someone and pretend it was an accident. Alicia watches in surprise, while Yumiella listens in silence, recognizing that even though the rumors have intensified, she really acted outside of what was expected. Yumiella wonders if there would be a place for her in this world. In silence, she stares at Patrick and Alicia from afar, feeling isolated. When Patrick begins to walk away with the princess, he stops and, with firm resolve, asks her to wait. Yumiella approaches, and Patrick, serious, stops her from continuing, drawing everyone's attention. While the princess watches attentively, one of the nobles tries to justify Yumiella's actions, saying that her methods were well received by the provincial nobles. Patrick argues that, although she used the forbidden flute, it only happened because the others were relaxing too much. Still, he admits that she was wrong, even if she didn't break any laws. Yumiella calmly accepts the blame without hesitation. After a tense moment, the prince decides to end the conversation and calls Alicia to leave with him. Yumiella watches in silence, exchanging only a quick glance with Patrick, who remains standing, staring at their exit. The atmosphere between them remains quiet and uncertain. Yumiella thanks him, a little surprised, seeing that Patrick remains serious and clearly irritated. She thinks that he's really mad. Still, she tries to start a conversation, asking if it was wise to confront someone of royal blood like that. Patrick stands firm, saying that he comes from a powerful family too, and that he doesn't care what the prince thinks of him. She then carefully asks if he's angry. Yumiella thinks he might have misunderstood her question, but Patrick responds by saying he's surprised, not by her, but by the prince's attitude, which doesn't seem fitting for royalty. He then apologizes for getting worked up earlier and admits that he ended up saying more than he should have. Patrick responds lightly, saying that there's no need to worry about formalities. He even jokes that he's just a provincial noble. Yumiella is surprised, as she expected a more rigid stance. She accepts his laid-back approach, and he reassures her by saying that there are more important things to worry about. He then suggests they go back to the classroom, and Yumiella agrees. Yumiella calls Patrick in a softer tone, and he responds surprised. She then thanks him, looking at him with a slight smile, showing that she's touched by everything he's done for her up to that point. Patrick comments, surprised, to see Yumiella smiling like that, as it's not common. She seems a little confused by this, not even realizing her own smile. He then asks if she wanted to say something to him, and she explains that she came back directly to school without saying anything, leaving him worried. Yumiella gets excited again, saying that she has already gotten over the moment of discouragement. Patrick asks if everything is okay, and she confirms. She thinks that she would like to be friends with him, but believes it's too difficult to happen. Still, they walk together through the hallways. The school holidays begin and many students return to their homes. However, due to distance or costs, some prefer to stay at the academy. Yumiella is one of those who stays, using the free time to train alone with her magic, focused and determined. During the break, Patrick also stays at the academy. He trains with Yumiella, correcting her sword stance as she tries to keep up. Even though she accidentally uses too much force again, she remains determined. They spend much of the time together, and the routine ends up being similar to the regular school days. Yumiella watches the sword while thinking about how strength depends on which part is used. Patrick, tired, suggests a break, and she agrees. During the break, he thanks her for training with him during the holidays. But Yumiella responds that it was she who asked for it. Even saying she's trying to control her strength, Patrick jokes about being thrown into the air more than once, and they both end up laughing together. Yumiella excitedly shows a magical plaque she calls Level 60, explaining that she trained to apply just the right amount of force to avoid bending it. But as soon as Patrick holds the plaque, it breaks easily. He struggles to replicate what she did, but can't manage it all. She admits that she still makes mistakes sometimes, while Patrick tries to keep his composure, clearly surprised by her strength. While the central nobles enjoy their holidays with lavish parties and trips, Yumiella and Patrick return to the peaceful routine at the academy. She smiles calmly, pleased to have the quiet and empty place to herself. For her, the mild summer and peaceful atmosphere are perfect. A few classmates approach Yumiella, asking for help with their work. She agrees calmly and begins guiding them. During this time, she realizes that maybe the rumors about her aren't all negative. She also notices more students talking to her lately, but it only happens when she's with Patrick, and only with classmates. The two girls ask what Yumiella and Patrick usually do, and she answers directly that they are training to level up. They are surprised by her answer, and Yumiella offers to help, saying she can recommend several dungeons if they want to train too. Patrick complains that she's scaring the other girls, especially when she mentions the monster summoning whistle. Yumiella responds that she was just talking about leveling up. Meanwhile, the other students whisper, comparing her to a monster and Patrick to a tamer. Yumiella clearly hears everything but pretends to be indifferent. Some students start commenting on Patrick and Yumiella, saying they look like older and younger siblings. Yumiella finds this exaggerated and overhears more comments, now involving Alicia. Despite the curiosity and gossip, Yumiella remains silent, reminding herself that Alicia is just a commoner. Some nobles still look down on Alicia, even though she has unique light magic abilities. The rumors about her visit to the castle are still fresh, and this only worsens her image. There's discomfort because she only associates with royalty and the most influential nobles. Meanwhile, Patrick mentions he won't be around the next day, saying he has an engagement. Yumiella responds calmly, and he still warns her not to do anything strange while she's alone. The next day, Yumiella decides her new mission is to read all the books in the library. She realizes her knowledge is too focused on magic. Watching Patrick, she understands that she also needs to develop technique, leadership, and strategy to become even stronger. Yumiella enters the library determined, planning to start with books on wars and military topics, including history. She thinks she only realized this need because of Patrick and feels grateful for it. While browsing the shelves, she unexpectedly runs into Alicia, which surprises her. Yumiella observes Alicia alone and thinks that her group might be nearby, which bothers her. When Alicia approaches, Yumiella tries to keep the conversation short, but Alicia surprises her by making a direct and unexpected request. She wants Yumiella to teach her about magic. Alicia explains that she was advised to take a break from training but didn't want to go home. Still, she's afraid to go out alone. Yumiella notices that Alicia's level isn't doing well and finds the request for help strange, considering Alicia could have better teachers at the palace. Slowly, she understands that Alicia probably doesn't have close friends to rely on in moments like this. Alicia shares that light magic is so rare that there are almost no books on it, so she decided to come to the library alone, hoping to find a clue. Yumiella is impressed by her effort and offers to help, since they both use rare types of magic. Seeing Alicia smile brightly, Yumiella recognizes that kind of smile as the heroine's. Alicia directly asks how Yumiella mastered dark magic. Yumiella freezes, as she can't reveal that she learned everything by playing the game. She thinks about how to answer without seeming suspicious, since there are no books officially available on that magic. While trying to disguise her thoughts, she wonders what to say. Yumiella tries to give Alicia a hint, suggesting she imagines special moves as a way to better channel her magic. Alicia looks confused, but Yumiella tries to explain using something related to light. Alicia then remembers the starry sky she saw with her grandmother in the countryside, using that memory as inspiration. Alicia talks about her childhood in the countryside, where the sky was always clear and full of stars because there were no tall buildings. She fondly recalls how beautiful it was. Yumiella listens and suggests that Alicia share this story with the prince. Alicia is surprised, but soon replies enthusiastically that she'll do that. Yumiella thinks that, being from the royal family, the prince probably has an interest in many things, including Alicia. Alicia thanks Yumiella excitedly for her help and says she'll be going back. Yumiella simply wishes her a good day. Afterwards, she returns to studying alone in the library, flipping through books and diving into the reading, completely focused on her research. Patrick shows up and asks what she's been up to this time. Yumiella says she spent her time reading and enjoying the peace. He notices the stack of books and offers to help her return them. Shortly after, he hands her a package, saying the queen asked him to deliver it. When Yumiella realizes he went to the castle, he confirms it, explaining that the life of a marquis's son is very busy. Patrick offers Yumiella a candy and invites her to go to his room for tea, but she is startled and declines, saying that a young lady's room is not the place for such a casual invitation. Realizing the mistake, they both apologize at the same time. He then suggests eating at the cafeteria, and she agrees. While they eat at the cafeteria, Patrick offers more sweets, but Yumiella declines, saying everything should be in moderation. Still, she continues eating slowly, very focused and calm. Patrick praises the sweets, saying they're very good, and Yumiella visibly feels proud of his reaction. They part ways, agreeing to train the next day. The scene ends with Alicia observing the two of them together, surprised and confused, wondering if they are friends. After the summer break, the Academy prepares for one of the biggest events of the year, the Martial Tournament. It's divided into two categories, a fencing tournament with one-on-one fights and a magic competition with a points system. All students can participate, regardless of grade. Registration is optional, but the winner gets a rare item as a prize. The boy comments on the Martial Tournament, but the black-haired protagonist makes it clear that she's not interested in participating. She knows it's an opportunity for those seeking military positions and that important nobles will be watching, but it doesn't fit her plans. While the boy says he also doesn't plan on pursuing a military career, the girl becomes curious when she sees the tournament prize, a rare black magic amulet. She recognizes the value of the item and thinks that, because it's so valuable, it would probably attract a lot of attention. Upon learning that the prize is a black magic amulet, the protagonist completely changes her mind. She says she needs the item and would do anything to get it. Without hesitation, she runs off to register for the tournament, determined and focused. Even with the boy trying to calm her down, she is already set on what she wants: to enter the martial tournament. The protagonist goes straight to the tournament organizer and firmly asks if, as an academy student, she's allowed to participate. The man, slightly taken aback by her intense attitude, allows her registration. She then finds out that the prize will only be awarded to those who win in both categories. Still, she remains determined. In her thoughts, she admits that if it weren't for the prize, she never would have cared about that tournament. The protagonist firmly confirms that she'll participate in both categories of the tournament and asks to be registered. She thinks that, as someone who likes to complete everything, seeking all the rewards is natural for her. After she leaves the room, the event organizer watches in silence, surprised by how easily she fell for the idea just because of the prize. On the day of the tournament, the protagonist and the boy arrive at the venue and are surprised by the size of the arena, much larger than expected. Normally, the event takes place within the academy itself, but due to the large number of nobles interested in watching, the venue had to be changed. They discuss why there's so much attention, and the boy suggests that many came to see the second prince in action, although he doubts it's just for that. The director boasts, thinking the tournament's focus is all because of him, while the protagonist observes everything with an indifferent gaze. She thinks the situation feels more like a zoo exhibition, as if everyone had come to see a rare lion or even a new weapon of war. The boy jokes that it's not easy being popular. When the competitors are called to the stage, the protagonist quickly says goodbye, confident, and heads to the start of the competition. As the protagonist heads to the stage, the boy thinks of various ways to ask her to take it easy, but he ends up just worrying. She ignores his exaggerated thoughts and stays confident. The tournament organization begins drawing lots for the fencing category fights. The protagonist watches the other participants while noticing that Prince Edwin and William are positioned in the right side of the bracket. The protagonist approaches the lottery area, curious about where she'll land. When she grabs the paper, she discovers she got number 3. Seeing the bracket formation, she realizes this means she'll only face the prince or William in the final. While she remains calm, many of the other participants panic when they see the result. One participant approaches the protagonist confidently, saying he spent the whole vacation training and is now level 20. He makes it clear that he wants a rematch and that things won't be like before. As he tries to impress her, the protagonist just stares at him with a neutral expression, thinking she doesn't even know if this level is actually high or not. The boy tries to strike up a conversation with the protagonist, thinking it's a good opportunity to ask about her training. She answers with generic and mechanical phrases, as if following a basic conversation manual. The attempt clearly fails, leaving the boy confused and irritated, thinking she was mocking him. Realizing it didn't work, she simply apologizes with a neutral expression, ending the conversation abruptly. The boy reveals that his main goal is to surpass Captain Adolf, so he's determined to defeat the protagonist. He says he heard she's already level 99 and believes it without question. She calmly responds, clearing up any misunderstanding. When he says defeating her will bring him closer to his dream, she looks at him coldly, thinking that, in fact, it would bring him closer to death. Still, she says she looks forward to facing him in the final. The first fight of the tournament begins. Each participant enters with their own real sword, but everyone wears a protection amulet that prevents instant death. There's also a team of healers on standby, and the competitors are experienced enough to know when to stop. The protagonist observes everything calmly as the audience cheers. The judge signals and the battle begins. Two competitors face off in the ring. One keeps a closed guard, waiting for the right moment to counterattack, while the other tries to deceive by constantly changing stances. The protagonist watches with boredom, finding the pace of the fight too slow. She thinks that the low levels of most participants also affect their physical abilities, and that they would be better off training to level up before focusing on technique. With the announcement of Miles Crowley's victory, she realizes that she's next. The next fight is announced: Yumiella Dolkness versus Lewis Lexham. The protagonist enters calmly while the audience reacts excitedly. Lewis, her opponent, is older and very muscular. Even confident of winning, he decides to hold back a bit at first, to let Yumiella show her skills and gain some spotlight before finishing her off. Thinking it would be good for her, Yumiella prepares for the fight, but her main concern is the durability of her sword. She uses a high-quality blade, but knows she's applying too much force, which could break the weapon. In her thoughts, she comments that if it weren't for the sword rule, she'd win with her bare hands. As she swings the sword through the air, the simple movement generates strong air pressure, scaring her opponent and making him tremble before the fight even starts. Before the fight even officially begins, Yumiella's opponent surrenders. She celebrates the fact that the sword is holding up well to her strength and thinks about using everything she's trained with Patrick. As the tournament progresses, the other opponents also surrender one after another. Without needing to truly fight at all, she advances straight to the final. William wins the semifinal against Edwin since the fight was focused on fencing, and Edwin relied more on magic. Yumiella watches and realizes he will be her opponent in the final. William, excited, finally sees a chance to truly fight, as all the others had surrendered before even facing her. He didn't want to win the tournament just through forfeits, so he's determined to give it his all in this last battle. In the final, William enters with an enormous sword, saying that things will be different now. He reveals he's using a strode sword, a weapon with high physical power, even without magic. Yumiella recognizes the item as endgame equipment and is surprised he got one so early. Even so, she believes this sword can handle her full strength and prepares for the battle. The fight starts with William attacking aggressively, but soon he's out of breath, exhausted from wielding such a heavy weapon. Yumiella, on the other hand, easily dodges all his attacks. William complains that she's just dodging, and she admits that it's getting monotonous. Thinking of changing her approach, she considers using Patrick's technique and, instead of just avoiding the attacks, try to deflect them with her sword. Yumiella decides to test the technique of deflecting the attack, waiting for the right moment to act. When William strikes, she firmly positions herself and intercepts his blade with her own sword. However, when the collision happens, something seems to go wrong. An onlooker panics, remembering that if a weapon breaks during a match, the fighter is automatically disqualified. At the moment of impact, to avoid her sword breaking, Yumiella decides to use her fist instead of the blade. She punches William with such force that his sword explodes into pieces. The blow is so unexpected that he freezes, trying to understand what just happened, while she remains calm, as if nothing had occurred. Yumiella is declared the winner, and William is in shock upon seeing his sword, one of the most durable, destroyed so easily. He tries to understand how that happened. Yumiella, on the other hand, feels relieved that no one noticed what she really did. The punch was so fast that even she didn't immediately notice. Fortunately, there was no one there with a high enough level to detect her true strength. Meanwhile, William, still confused, recalls Captain Adolf's words and begins to piece things together. She broke a legendary sword with her bare hands. With the fencing tournament finished, the magic competition begins. The students present one by one, in order of their levels. Each performance is judged by experienced judges, all royal sorcerers. The score of each competitor is determined according to their criteria, and the winner will be decided based on these scores. As she is the last to present in the magic competition, Yumiella waits and begins to get bored. She observes the environment in silence until someone compliments her on her performance in fencing. Sitting next to her, the person explains that, unlike the sword fights, the magic category also evaluates control and variety, not just brute strength. Yumiella thanks the comment but remains calm. One of the participants remarks that although she couldn't defeat Yumiella in direct combat, her advantage in the competition comes from her ability to use all four magical elements. Yumiella listens in silence and thinks that, since she only has dark magic, she may indeed be at a disadvantage in this type of evaluation. She also admits that she doesn't have much confidence in her own magical control. During the conversation, one of the classmates asks about her vacation, and comments that he heard she trained at the royal palace, which surprises her for a moment. Yumiella tries to start a conversation by asking about the type of training the other girl did, but receives a vague and formal answer. She even tries to use her basic conversation phrases again, but quickly gives up, realizing it's not working. The other girl, after thinking for a moment, acknowledges Yumiella's level 99 and even apologizes for doubting her. She mentions hearing rumors that Yumiella will be used in a direct attack on the Demon Lord, and admits that she respects that decision, finding everything quite serious. Yumiella's rival firmly declares that she intends to become the greatest mage in the country, and winning this tournament is part of her path to that goal. She reminds that the results will be judged by royal sorcerers, including the royal head of mages. Even recognizing Yumiella's strength, she makes it clear that she still hates her. Yumiella, for her part, responds calmly but firmly, stating that she also doesn't intend to lose and will dedicate herself fully to the competition. Meanwhile, they ask about Alicia, who is still preparing for her presentation. The next participant is announced: Alicia, a first-year student, specializing in light magic. She enters quietly, visibly nervous, with her eyes closed and hands clasped in prayer. The tension on Alicia's face shows that she is struggling to maintain concentration before using her magic. Alicia starts her performance by casting a spell called Sun Rain. Small spheres of light begin to fall slowly like a shimmering rain, leaving everyone amazed by the beauty of the magic. The protagonist watches in silence, recognizing the spell with a surprised and thoughtful look. Memories from Alicia's childhood emerge, showing that this spell holds personal and emotional significance for her. Alicia continues to captivate the audience with the spell, lighting up the stadium sky with small glowing lights. The protagonist observes the scene calmly, realizing that Alicia has always had the potential to be a heroine, even if she hadn't stood out yet. When one of the lights touches her hand, it simply disappears, leaving her intrigued. She thinks that this might have been caused by the difference between the types of magic they use. Alicia finishes her magic presentation and receives many applauses from the audience. She earns a high score, impressing everyone with the beauty and rarity of her light magic. The protagonist watches everything calmly and thinks that if rarity is taken into account, she may still have a chance. Shortly after, Edwin is called to the stage, representing the four elements. She reflects that she didn't expect to get this far in the competition with Alicia leading. Edwin presents his magic using the four elements. The protagonist observes that he performs decently with fire and water, but his air and earth magic are still weak. Even so, he manages to score 90 points, which is considered impressive just for mastering all elements. Nevertheless, he still doesn't reach the level of Oswald, who is called next to present. The protagonist observes in silence as Oswald begins his presentation. He takes a deep breath, concentrates, and then starts invoking magic. The ground begins to tremble and large rock formations rise from the earth. The protagonist is surprised by the strength of the magic being displayed. Oswald continues his performance by combining earth and water magic. He forms a large solid block and, with a precise gesture, cuts it into perfect cubes. The audience reacts with amazement at his refined technique. He maintains a serious posture, showing total control over the spell until the end of the demonstration. Oswald creates a floating magical sphere, carefully shaping the spell as he combines the elements. The sphere begins to spin and glow intensely, showcasing his precise control. He then fires the spell with force, causing a precise explosion at the center of the arena, ending his performance with an impactful flourish. Oswald finishes his presentation confidently, leaving the stage as the dust from the explosion settles. The audience begins to comment excitedly, and the judges bow in approval. The crowd quickly erupts into applause, praising his performance. Meanwhile, Yumiella observes from afar, offering a brief comment as she prepares for her turn. Oswald receives a perfect score and is cheered by the audience as he walks confidently back, certain of his victory. Yumiella watches in silence, impressed with his control and combination of magic. Still, she hasn't decided which magic she will use, but knows she can still tie. Despite Oswald's direct provocation, claiming no one can surpass his score, Yumiella realizes that the order of the magic competition follows the participants' levels, meaning she is last because she is the strongest. She begins to consider that the others may indeed be trying to level up. As she walks to her turn, she thinks it's crucial for Alicia and the others to become stronger to defeat the Demon Lord. Still, she feels frustrated with how inefficient the country's progress is in this aspect. Yumiella notices that Patrick is watching from afar and finds it odd that he isn't closer. Nonetheless, she decides to make a presentation that he can clearly see from where he is. Forcing a smile, she mentally promises to put on a show worthy of him. Yumiella is announced as the last competitor, representing dark magic. She notices Patrick stepping back, which intrigues her for a moment. Knowing there's no longer any focus on control, she decides to show just how powerful she truly is. Silently and confidently, she begins to release the intense aura of her level 99. Yumiella raises her arm and invokes her magic, declaring the spell Black Hole. The audience is shocked by what they see, unable to comprehend what is happening. She decides to release all her power on purpose, so even Patrick, watching from afar, can see. As the spell grows, she thinks about how long it's been since she last used the full extent of her magic. The sky above the stadium becomes completely covered by Yumiella's magic, making it seem like night in the middle of the day. From the outside, those observing from a distance are also startled by the sudden darkness, thinking the evening has come early. The size and impact of the spell are visible even from far away. The dark sky begins to shine with small lights, creating a beautiful contrast with the previous spell. Yumiella watches the scene calmly and thinks that, despite all her destructive power, she can also use magic that impresses with its beauty. Those watching from afar appear to be stunned by what they are witnessing. Yumiella's spell starts to cause an unexpected effect. The vortex at the end of the spell begins to suck everything around, creating a strong air vacuum. People panic, thinking it's the end of the world, and shout that she is the demon lord herself. Yumiella realizes she forgot this part of the spell and becomes worried about having used only one magic. Meanwhile, the judges seem shocked and try to figure out how many points she should receive. Yumiella tries to convince the judges to let her cast one more spell, even after causing panic with the previous one. She starts thinking of bizarre new ideas, like hands emerging from shadows, or a healing spell using dark magic. The judges, desperate, say she has already won and beg her to stop. Still, she receives 300 points, an amount that confuses everyone, as the maximum should have been 100. In the end, Yumiella wins in both categories of the tournament and earns a black magic amulet as a prize. Yumiella receives the black magic amulet as a prize and comments that it further increases her magical power. One of the evaluators doesn't understand the real use of the item, and Patrick, somewhat worried, asks if she really needs it. He also tries to warn her to stop breaking swords with her hands. Yumiella, with a threatening look, offers a demonstration of the amulet's effect right there, putting Patrick into a panic. Months pass since the tournament. Winter arrives, and Yumiella comments that at least it's not that cold. She also says life is easier when she doesn't have to think about what to wear. Her routine remains solitary, and even after the competition, the classmates seem even more scared of her. A new day begins, and someone greets her, trying to break the isolation. Yumiella mentions that lately, she's only been talking to Patrick. She's glad not to be involved with Alicia and her romances, and says that her life is peaceful. Patrick arrives, greeting her normally, but his tone changes when he asks if she knows why Alicia has been losing her things. Yumiella responds directly that she doesn't know anything, and inside she already says goodbye to her peaceful days. Edwin tries to justify himself, saying that he's asking everyone, but Patrick intervenes and says that accusations without evidence are unfair. Patrick quickly apologizes and tries to exit the situation. As he leaves, he says that he never even considered asking Edwin, knowing he wouldn't be capable of doing something like that. Yumiella is surprised by Patrick's attitude, saying that he never would have done that before. She realizes that, in the original game, it was her who caused problems for Alicia, but now someone else is doing it in her place. She understands that many students don't like Alicia, either because she's a commoner or because she's close to the prince. As she reflects, Yumiella realizes that even without wanting to, she's being left out of this plot. Yumiella begins to reflect on Alicia's situation and realizes that even though she may have had some feelings involved in the original game, everything is different in this reality. She remembers that she always hid her dark magic and now wonders if, in the game, the decision to torment Alicia was really hers. Concerned about the impact this might have on the girl's level growth, she concludes that the bullying needs to stop immediately, or it could hinder the future plans involving the fight against the Demon King. Yumiella decides to investigate on her own what's happening with Alicia's belongings. She notices that nothing strange happens during classes, since Alicia is always surrounded by the three boys. This rules out direct bullying. She then concludes that the culprit acts after school and decides to keep a watch. During her observation, she catches a suspicious girl near Alicia's desk, who gets startled upon being caught and tries to explain that she was worried about the disappearing items. Yumiella suddenly appears at the top of the room and jumps from the ceiling straight at the suspect, causing a huge scare. The girl panics, thinking she will be attacked, and desperately pleads not to be killed. Meanwhile, Yumiella simply approaches calmly, maintaining her serious expression, which increases the other's fear. The situation ends with the girl tripping and falling to the ground from nervousness. The girl confesses that she hid Alicia's belongings because she was ordered to by Elanora. Yumiella listens without much reaction, but wonders why everyone is so afraid of her, even though she hasn't done anything extreme yet. Following that, Elanora, sitting calmly, confirms what she heard, repeating the accusation almost indifferently. Elanora tries to manipulate the conversation by saying she just wanted to warn that one of Yumiella's friends was doing something wrong. She suggests that even if the girl said she acted alone, it doesn't change the fact that the act was unforgivable. She insinuates that Yumiella might also be held responsible since the culprit could be seen as part of her group. Still, Yumiella responds directly, asking what that has to do with her, since the girl admitted to doing everything on her own. Yumiella assures her that she won't tell anyone about what she discovered, but makes it clear that she doesn't intend to cover for anyone. Elanora tries to convince her not to punish the guilty girl, saying that doing so would only draw attention and could harm her future with the prince. She also hints that Alicia might marry the prince, as her popularity with the people would help strengthen the royal family's image. Yumiella then asks directly if it's really impossible for a commoner to marry royalty, even knowing that if Alicia defeats the Demon King, she will be treated as a saint. Yumiella listens calmly while Elanora feigns concern, saying she just wanted to help Yumiella avoid tarnishing her image with a scandal. She recommends that Yumiella warn her friends to stay away from Alicia under the pretense of protecting her reputation with the prince. Inside, Yumiella understands the plan perfectly. Make her or her friends cause problems, the prince gets close to Alicia out of pity, and they get closer. So she agrees to everything, feigning surprise and promising to keep the conversation a secret. In the end, Yumiella realizes that she has completed all her objectives, stopped the bullying against Alicia, cleaned up her image, and got rid of Eleanor's suspicions. Patrick comments that he found it strange that Yumiella didn't hand the culprit directly over to the prince, especially since Elanora clearly wanted her to do that, particularly knowing that the prince doesn't like her. Yumiella, with a calm look, explains that she understood why the girl did it. She was simply used as a tool by her own family, without respect or value, forced to carry out dirty orders for being the weakest part of the group. In the end, Yumiella reveals that she saw herself in that girl. Yumiella begins to think about how everything would have been different if she had hidden her dark magic and never increased her level. She imagines that she would have followed the path expected by her parents, gotten closer to the nobility, and joined Eleanor's group. In this scenario, she would have become just a tool, the weakest part, used to do the dirty work that no one wanted, like stealing Alicia's belongings. She imagines that, in place of the Yumiella from the game, she would have hated Elanora, her own parents, and everyone around her. No one would have helped her. The hatred for Alicia and her light magic, along with the admiration she received from the prince and others, would have grown. She starts to think that maybe the Yumiella from the game wasn't really a villain, but just someone shaped by an unfair environment. In this scenario, she would have leveled up only for revenge. She reflects that the only difference between her and the Yumiella from the game is that one leveled up and the other didn't. Without power, she would have been defeated by Alicia. She realizes that everything would have been different if she hadn't had overwhelming strength to protect herself. Thinking about this, she starts to feel a desire to help the guilty one. While speaking, she asks Patrick what's going on, saying she's just speculating. Patrick counters, saying this changes nothing, neither in the present nor in her hypothetical scenario. The level difference is clear. Yumiella starts to reflect internally, wondering if she hates Alicia, if she has allies, and concludes that the real difference between them is that she has all the memories of her past life, which makes her mentally much older. Patrick tries to say something upon seeing her reaction, but Yumiella interrupts, saying that everything is fine. She calmly states that she doesn't hate Alicia or the world. They exchange a silent glance, and Patrick looks visibly surprised and touched by her response. Sitting on the bench, Yumiella reflects that she used to want to run away and hide, but now, with Patrick around, she's thinking about staying in the country. She says goodbye, stating that she's going back to the dorms, and Patrick responds with a "take care." After she leaves, he sits on the bench, smiling to himself, satisfied to have someone to talk to. Lying on her bed, Yumiella thinks about how quickly the year has passed. She wonders when she'll be able to make friends, since even creating a simple bond takes a lot of effort. Thinking further, she says that she can't even imagine the possibility of having a boyfriend one day. Yumiella walks through the school when she is approached by Elanora, who appears smiling and excited to see her. Even with the friendly tone, Yumiella reacts coldly, commenting that coincidences can be scary. She reveals that, since the bullying incident, Elanora has been insistent on getting close to her and won't leave her alone. Elanora invites Yumiella for tea insistently, as if they were close, completely ignoring Yumiella's clear disdain. Even though Yumiella made it clear she wanted distance, Elanora keeps trying to get closer. Yumiella doesn't understand her intentions and starts to worry about the consequences, since Elanora is the daughter of a powerful and dangerous duke. Still, she decides she needs to be firm and resolve this directly. Yumiella tries to put an end to Elanora's persistent invitations, but the girl responds by offering sweets and making a pitiful face. Even when explaining that their proximity could cause more trouble with the prince, Elanora insists, saying she just wants someone to talk to. Losing patience, Yumiella agrees to go just to end the matter, while thinking how tired she is of this clingy princess. As the two walk down the corridors, students begin to whisper around them. Yumiella notices they aren't heading to the usual place and questions this. Elanora, with an excited smile, says that their destination is her room, wanting to have a long and peaceful conversation there. They sit down for tea, and Elanora insists that Yumiella try a biscuit. She accepts and starts chewing in silence. The taste is quite bland, and Yumiella tries to be polite in her response. Elanora, proud, reveals that she made the biscuits herself, leaving Yumiella even more confused about why she's being treated with such kindness. Yumiella sees the biscuits as an opportunity to push Elanora away. She decides to be direct and says that the taste is bad. Inside, she hopes this irritates the princess and makes her give up on hovering over her. Even though she could lie, she prefers honesty, hoping that this will be enough to end the other girl's persistence. Elanora laughs loudly after Yumiella's comment, agreeing that the biscuits are indeed bland. She seems happy that Yumiella was the only one to be honest, while everyone else pretended to praise them. Yumiella, on the other hand, becomes confused and worried, thinking she may have made a big mistake trying to push the princess away with honesty. Elanora, with a mischievous smile, explains that she made the biscuits because she heard Alicia brought some for the prince, and she wanted to try to do something similar. Yumiella, losing patience, responds that Elanora is out of her mind, being the daughter of a noble with political intentions, a real biological weapon. She tries to make it clear that she doesn't want to get involved with the princess's manipulations, which seem far beyond her abilities. She just wants Elanora to despise her, like everyone else does. Yumiella realizes that the more she tries to make Elanora hate her, the more the princess seems to like her. Confused by this behavior, she wonders if there's something wrong with the system, as everyone around Elanora treats her as infallible. However, Yumiella is the only one who dares to disagree with her actions, feeling uncomfortable with the situation. She realizes that everyone around Elanora simply confirms her ideas, without questioning them, which makes her even more irritated. Yumiella begins to think that Elanora might be manipulated by someone, using her naivety for their own benefit. She becomes concerned that someone with questionable intentions could be exploiting the princess's good faith. Elanora, for her part, continues to trust the people around her, always with the same sincerity, which makes her vulnerable. Furthermore, Yumiella remembers the incident where Alicia's things were disappeared, something she swears she had nothing to do with. Yumiella questions Elanora's role in the incident involving Alicia and wonders who might have suggested the idea of pushing Alicia into problems. Elanora, for her part, tries to justify her actions by saying that her family always does things in a complicated way. Even though she has good intentions and isn't bad at heart, she admits that she might have been influenced without realizing it. Elanora confesses that she didn't think what they were doing to Alicia was right, but since everyone was talking about it, she ended up giving in to the pressure. She also reveals that one of the other girls volunteered to participate in the action. Yumiella, suspicious, notes that maybe Elanora simply followed the group's idea without much thought, and that she has a complicated history with her family and friends, which could have influenced her choices. Elanora, excited, tells Yumiella that now that they're friends, she doesn't need to worry anymore. She reveals her intention to ask for advice about her relationship with Prince Edwin, but Yumiella tries to avoid getting involved in her matters, making it clear that she's too busy to deal with that. The situation reflects Yumiella's discomfort with the friendship with Elanora, while Elanora seems to ignore Yumiella's reservations. When Elanora asks Yumiella about her certainty of marrying the prince, Yumiella feels uncomfortable remembering that she had lied about it. She tries to avoid telling the truth, knowing that despite the lie, the topic has put her in a difficult position. The situation makes her reflect on how she ended up involved in these lies. Yumiella is studying alone in her room. Suddenly, a cheerful blonde girl enters and makes a point of announcing her presence, interrupting Yumiella's moment, who reacts with indifference, realizing the visitor just barges in without ceremony. Yumiella is forced to welcome the Duke's daughter into her room and serves her a special tea out of respect for the guest. The blonde girl takes the chance to invite Yumiella to a tea party she'll be organizing soon. Yumiella asks why Elanora is so interested in her, and the answer is because she's different from other people. Elanora is excited about Yumiella's unique personality and remembers an old prediction where Yumiella said she would marry the prince. Yumiella gets uncomfortable with Elanora's way. Patrick, noticing this, tries to convince Yumiella to give the girl a chance, saying Elanora is just eccentric, not mean. Yumiella thinks about the suggestion, feeling Patrick wants them to be friends. Patrick asks if Yumiella will go to the year-end ball, but she says she'd rather avoid social events. Later, Yumiella thinks that, since she's a complete outsider, there's no reason to go, preferring to stay home. Yumiella thinks the ball events, in the ideal scenario, don't affect her life, and she could even show up just out of curiosity. But when Elanora shows up excited asking about her ball dress, Yumiella is already annoyed by her classmates' insistent presence. Elanora explains that the ball requires pretty dresses for dancing, but Yumiella says she doesn't have a partner. When Elanora suggests Patrick, Yumiella gets irritated and thinks about it. She remembers she knows how to dance, considers attending the event, and wonders if she even has a proper dress. Elanora insists on helping Yumiella choose a dress for the ball, even offering one of her own. With little choice, Yumiella ends up agreeing, and the two go to her room to sort out the dress issue. Yumiella arrives in her room, accompanied by Elanora, and asks her maid, Rita, to check if she has any dresses. Rita is surprised by the request but starts searching, while Elanora watches the situation, curious. Yumiella says she needs a dress for the ball, but considers wearing her uniform if she can't find one. Rita and Elanora insist she needs makeup for the occasion. Even though Yumiella is reluctant, Rita offers to handle Yumiella's look, assuring she already has experience doing her younger sister's hair. Rita finds luxurious dresses full of ruffles and trendy details, all ordered by Yumiella's family. Elanora is impressed with the quality of the dresses, while Yumiella wonders if her mother really knows her age, since she never met her. Yumiella prefers simpler colors like black, white, or gray, but is reminded white is for weddings, and black isn't common for parties. She ends up choosing gray, since she likes the color, and Rita promises to get her a dress like that. Soon after, Yumiella is notified about a package's arrival. Yumiella thinks maybe she'll have to give up the ball, but is surprised to feel disappointed about it. Soon, an unusual and large package, different from the usual one sent by the queen, arrives for her, perfectly sized to hold a dress, which she finds suspiciously convenient. At the ball, Yumiella receives compliments on her dress. Elanora asks why she didn't ask Patrick to accompany her, making Yumiella uncomfortable with the subject. Patrick approaches, and Yumiella questions why everyone insists on bringing him up. Yumiella appears at the ball in an elegant dress, drawing everyone's attention, including Patrick and Elanora. Elanora, surprised and excited, quickly moves away not to interfere with Yumiella and Patrick's moment. Yumiella decides to go to the ball but admits she was thinking of leaving. She feels a bit embarrassed to be wearing a dress. Patrick notices her and the two remain silent for a moment, until Yumiella asks if something's wrong. Yumiella notices Patrick is acting odd and distracted, clearly looking for someone at the ball, though he tries to hide it, saying it's nothing. She finds his behavior strange and sees his attention is on someone else. Yumiella remembers she went to the ball to observe Alicia, but realizes she can't tell who Alicia is closest to among the boys. As she watches the group, Patrick notices Yumiella's distraction and asks if she's okay, but she keeps trying to figure out Alicia's choice. After thinking about leaving the ball, Yumiella is called by Patrick, who grabs her hand and stops her from leaving. She's surprised by his gesture and waits to see what he wants to say. Patrick invites Yumiella to dance and politely offers his hand, asking for a dance. Yumiella, surprised, accepts the invitation, and the two begin dancing together. while she notices the touch of his hand because of the sleeveless dress. Yumiella accepts to dance with Patrick directly, leaving him a bit surprised. Patrick smiles and says she'll always be herself, which makes Yumiella feel things are okay between them. Yumiella, despite being confident in her physical skills, dances totally stiff and robotic, worried about stepping on Patrick's feet. He tries to calm her, telling her to relax, but Yumiella keeps worrying and asks if he'd mind if she stepped on his feet. While dancing with Patrick, Yumiella relaxes and realizes she's having fun. She feels her body moving naturally and enjoys the moment, surprised that she's finding it fun. Yumiella and Patrick keep dancing together. She wonders why she's enjoying herself so much, but soon lets go of those doubts and just enjoys being next to him. As they dance, Yumiella and Patrick realize they're drawing everyone's attention. Patrick calmly comments about people's remarks, even some odd ones about her dress and dancing style. Still, he says it's because Yumiella is really beautiful, leaving her surprised at how naturally he says it. Yumiella tries not to be shaken by Patrick's compliments but gets nervous noticing her sweaty hands. She says she can't return this type of compliment, while Patrick admits maybe he also didn't notice certain feelings before, but now he sees clearly. After the dance, Yumiella explains her sweaty hand so Patrick won't misunderstand. She notices he seems bothered, and before they can talk more, Yumiella is called by someone else. She feels guilty for being a bad dancer. An unknown boy invites Yumiella for the next dance, which annoys and makes her suspicious. She quickly prepares to refuse directly, also realizing Patrick and the new guy don't get along. Yumiella turns the guy down, saying she's only interested in men stronger than her, leaving him speechless. Then she tells Patrick she's dealt with the situation, but Patrick is surprised by her standards and asks if she's okay, noticing she may be shaken. Patrick remembers he invited Yumiella to spend the vacation together, but she immediately refused, saying she already had other plans. Determined to change that, Patrick spent every day of the vacation training hard, non-stop. Patrick trains endlessly in a dungeon, feeling the heat increase more and more. After a break, exhausted, he notices someone approaching and bows, showing respect or tiredness. Spring break ends and a new semester starts, with another student reception ceremony. Yumiella watches her old classmates and the new students, now starting her second year at the school. At the start of the new semester, Yumiella appears holding a strange, dark object, making everyone around curious and whispering. Patrick watches the scene, confused, trying to understand what that dark egg she's carrying is. Patrick asks Yumiella what she's carrying, curious about the mysterious object. Yumiella answers, joking, that it's her child, leaving Patrick shocked and confused, while others wonder if she could really lay eggs. Yumiella reveals to Patrick that the object is a dragon egg she found during the vacation. She says she plans to hatch it, explaining that dragons use magical energy to hatch their eggs, so, in a way, she's right to call it her child. It's explained that the more magical energy a dragon gets in its egg, the stronger it's born, and the one providing this energy is seen as the parent by the hatchling. This bond happens even if the magic comes from another species. While monsters usually don't obey humans, dragons are an exception and may accept human commands because of this bond formed during incubation. Having a dragon is extremely rare, since eggs are hard to find and giving more magic than the original parents is almost impossible. That's why the kingdom only has 2 dragons. In the game, a light-type dragon is born thanks to Alicia's magic and grows so much it can carry the whole group on its back, being a unique and valuable creature. Yumiella is happy that, during break, she achieved a classic RPG feat, getting a mount in this case, a dragon egg. She thinks it could be useful if she ever needs to escape the country. Patrick, seeing the egg, feels there's something sinister about it, though Yumiella is satisfied. Yumiella says she's already attached to the dragon egg and considers it her child, taking it everywhere and pouring magic into it. She says that, even being a monster, she won't treat it cruelly and believes it'll be adorable when it's born. Patrick worries about the possibility of Yumiella raising the most powerful dragon ever, while she's already thinking about choosing a name for it. Yumiella states that, because it's her child, the dragon will be the strongest ever. Patrick wishes for a healthy birth for the dragon, but is unsure if he said something wrong. Suddenly, Yumiella notices something happening with the egg. Yumiella realizes the egg is about to hatch, feeling it move more and more, believing it could happen today or tomorrow. Excited, she decides to share this moment with Patrick and asks if he'll be free after the student reception ceremony. During the ceremony, Yumiella draws the new student's attention by sitting with the big egg in her lap, being seen as a strange and intimidating figure. Afterwards, she invites Patrick into her room, realizing it's his first time there. Patrick enters Yumiella's room a bit nervous, as it seems to be his first time visiting a girl's room. They sit down for tea, and Patrick asks what Yumiella did during spring break. Yumiella explains that during the break, she helped Jessica by defeating a dragon, and kept the egg as a reward. She spent the rest of the time pouring magic into the egg, while doing her daily activities. Patrick, surprised, asks if she has permission for that, and Yumiella confirms she got authorization from the king and principal to raise the dragon. The egg starts moving again, making Yumiella excited and convinced the hatchling will be adorable. Patrick, curious, asks if the egg is about to hatch, while he watches Yumiella excited and thrilled with each movement of the egg. Patrick asks if Yumiella will become a dragon knight, since she's hatching the egg. Yumiella explains she got a special exception and doesn't have to become a knight, though normally dragons belong to the nation and their knights are very valuable. She was even asked if she had any problems at school, realizing how privileged she's treated because of her strength. Yumiella and Patrick think the egg won't hatch that day, as it's already getting late. But suddenly, they notice a different movement, and Yumiella excitedly calls Patrick over, as the egg starts to crack. The egg starts to shake. Yumiella and Patrick hope the hatchling can get out. They watch closely until the egg finally starts to crack, and a claw appears, showing the dragon is being born. Yumiella is excited to see the egg hatching, and calls Patrick to watch. The dragon begins to break out of the shell. Yumiella cheers it on, while Patrick watches, a bit surprised and still feeling pain in his hand from her grip. The dragon finally comes out of the egg and stares at Yumiella. She observes the hatchling up close, looking directly at him while the little dragon stares back, marking their first contact. Yumiella surprises Patrick by saying the newborn dragon is adorable. Even with the hatchling's scary look, she's delighted and says he's so cute she could die from so much cuteness, leaving Patrick completely shocked by her reaction. Yumiella observes the newborn dragon and thinks he's black, just like her hair and eyes, looking a lot like her. She describes him as having a majestic build, big eyes, and a large mouth, and feels proud, hugging the hatchling. Patrick accepts her opinion and says that if she thinks he's cute, that's what matters. Yumiella says the dragon is purring like a kitten, but Patrick thinks it sounds more like a low growl. Patrick suggests the name Ryu for the dragon, thinking it sounds cool. Yumiella thinks it makes sense, since Ryu means dragon, and she likes it because it sounds like a boy's name, which she considers a bonus. Yumiella names the newborn dragon Ryu. He answers excitedly, roaring. Then, the dragon already tries to breathe fire indoors, and Patrick quickly asks him not to do that inside the room. Yumiella just waves, trying to control the situation, while a maid watches the mess. Yumiella tries to control the dragon, but he keeps breathing fire, scaring Patrick and the maid. She decides she'll sleep with the dragon until he grows up. Patrick says goodbye, worried, and Yumiella takes Ryu to bed, saying she'll take care of him. Yumiella stays in the room with Ryu, finding Patrick and Rita's behavior odd. She has fun with the dragon, thinks he's cute, and wonders if she'll need a bigger place when he grows up, but decides to worry about that later. Yumiella wishes Ryu good night as she lies down with him in bed. Rita enters the room, nervous and shaking, but before she can say anything, Yumiella hears a scream from outside. Ryu grows very fast and takes up the whole bed with Yumiella. She realizes this is getting ridiculous and starts thinking about how she'll manage to get the dragon out of the room. Yumiella starts wondering if she did something to bother the new first-year students. Patrick explains that now they're second-year students and comments that many freshmen enrolled, but everything's weird. When Yumiella walks through the halls, students move to the walls, and when she goes outside, they quickly go back into the building. She gets thoughtful, thinking she might have done something wrong. Yumiella realizes that, even hoping to start the new year with no problems, the students are still afraid of her. She understands that most of the kingdom's nobles already know who she is, especially after the whole Ryu the dragon situation. Patrick tries to reassure her, saying she didn't do anything directly. Still, she feels bothered that only Elanora agrees with her opinion, that there's no need to be so scared of a baby dragon like Ryu. Patrick feels that he and Yumiella want to say the same thing to each other. He insists they both speak at the same time, saying it's better to risk it than not do anything. Yumiella hesitates but agrees, while Patrick gets nervous and asks to go first. They both prepare to talk together, showing that something important is about to be revealed between them. Yumiella excitedly reveals that her biggest wish is to fly through the skies on Ryu's back. Patrick is surprised by her answer, but she explains that she's a little scared but still won't let Patrick try it before her. Ryu is already big and can fly, even though he's never been trained. Meanwhile, Yumiella wonders if Patrick wanted to say something else. Yumiella imagines what it would be like to fly on Ryu's back and thinks everyone's dreamed of that at some point, but admits that falling from the sky would be scary. Patrick is surprised to find out she's afraid of flying, since he always thought Yumiella was fearless. In the end, she realizes she's the one who brought up the subject and finds it all a bit embarrassing. Patrick decides to drop the idea and doesn't insist. Yumiella says she's afraid of landing in places with people, but she herself isn't worried. Patrick explains that controlling the landing is hard, only wind mages can do it precisely, so it can be dangerous for others. Even so, Yumiella gets excited and decides to try flying with Ryu right then, taking Patrick to the dragon's house. Yumiella arrives excited and hugs Ryu, saying how cute he is. Patrick watches and realizes that, despite the fear, she's curious about flying. Patrick then asks about a ring she's holding. Yumiella explains it's a ring to show that Ryu belongs to the kingdom of Valshine, not a wild dragon. Patrick comments he thought those rings went on dragon's ears, and Yumiella says she didn't want to put it there, but also doesn't want them to think Ryu is wild. Yumiella puts the ring on Ryu, and Patrick finds it odd, since the spot is really tough, but Yumiella says she bent the ring easily. She tells Ryu she'll ride him today, and asks him to let her know if he feels any discomfort. Ryu answers with a roar. Patrick warns Yumiella to be careful, saying that whenever someone's too confident, things go wrong. He suggests that if she has doubts, maybe she shouldn't do it, and mentions using a saddle for safety. Yumiella says she'll be fine and wants to try now. Yumiella ignores the suggestion to use a special saddle for riding the dragon, thinking that if she waited for a custom saddle, it would take too long to fly. So, she climbs onto Ryu, calls Patrick to trust her, and tells Ryu to fly to the clouds. Soon after, time passes, and they're already in the air. Yumiella is excited while flying on Ryu, but ends up slipping and falling off the dragon because she got too excited. She experiences a free fall at high altitude, but doesn't panic. She just thinks she'll ask Ryu to come get her. Yumiella realizes it won't work to get Ryu's attention just by falling, because in the dragon's mind, she's clearly stronger than him, so he doesn't worry. She notices she's falling straight into the kingdom's commercial district while thinking about this, and sees Ryu just flapping his wings, ready to act as if it's all just a game to him. Yumiella quickly thinks and uses magic to try to change her fall trajectory. She picks an open space near Ryu's house, where there aren't many people, to avoid causing damage when landing. Then, she activates magic on her feet, like boosters, to better control the landing. Yumiella manages to use magic to adjust her fall direction. She realizes she's heading straight for the academy, and makes a slight correction in the route to land in the right spot, even as she gains speed. Yumiella realizes too late that she should have used reverse thrust to brake. She understands her mistake, but it's too late. She ends up causing a huge explosion when landing. Yumiella lands in a cloud of dust, creating a huge crater. She realizes she'll need new shoes, as hers were destroyed. Patrick runs to her, worried. But Yumiella says she's fine, only her shoes didn't make it. Patrick decides to carry Yumiella in his arms, even though she says she can walk by herself. She tries to resist a little, but thinks if she used her full strength to break free, she'd just hurt Patrick. So, she just accepts it while he carries her. Yumiella thinks that even though she's incredibly powerful, she's still physically very light, and that's a weak point her high level doesn't solve. Patrick runs through the school carrying her in his arms, leaving everyone commenting on the scene. Meanwhile, Patrick panics, thinking Yumiella might be hurt, and even remembers she can use healing magic, but Yumiella just calmly says she's right there, by his side. Patrick and Yumiella have tea together while talking. She asks if he's better, and he says yes. Patrick apologizes, saying he thought she was in danger. Yumiella asks why he panicked so much. Patrick admits he overreacted, says it wasn't that bad, and that she needs to take better care of herself, showing concern for her. Patrick tells Yumiella that even if others think differently, she's human. She jokes, wondering if people think she's something other than human. She realizes that no one besides Patrick worries about her like that, and feels she should be grateful for it, even if she sometimes feels a bit left out. The principal tells Yumiella that, until now, she's been supervising practical lessons, but now, he suggests she use this class time to take care of her dragon, since he's growing fast but is still a baby, and sees her as his mother. He says he thinks the proposal is quite generous. Yumiella just responds, a little unenthusiastic, saying, okay. Yumiella thanks for the opportunity to spend time with the dragon after school, but asks if it wouldn't be unfair for her to skip classes. The principal says it's fine. He explains that in the second year, It's common for students to study alone or in small groups to focus on individual skills. He uses as an example the students designated to defeat the demon lord, who also have that privilege. Yumiella realizes the principal is letting her stay with the dragon during classes because many students complained, saying they can't concentrate because of the dragon, and his noise even causes insomnia. In the end, she thinks this permission is the best possible gift and accepts it, excited. The principal says he'll arrange everything immediately. Yumiella says she won't participate in practical training anymore. Patrick reminds her that without a saddle, she shouldn't go flying around with Ryu. Yumiella understands and says she can't just go around making craters in the ground. Patrick says that's not even the main problem, but she stays relaxed. After that, the scene changes to the outskirts of the royal capital. Two men talk about the country's situation, complaining that more monsters have been appearing lately, which is affecting crops and livestock. One of them notices something strange on the ground and, taking a closer look, gets scared and shocked, thinking, "What is this?" Yumiella is flying on Ryu's back, her black dragon, drawing attention from those watching from afar. Someone observes, surprised, and thinks, "A black dragon?" Yumiella tells Ryu not to fly too close to the ground unless they're at home. She praises Ryu, who responds with a roar. Yumiella comments that she'll hug him more when they're not flying, because when they start flying with a saddle, she won't be able to feel his scaly skin anymore, finding it a shame. Yumiella sees a girl sitting alone and realizes it's Alicia. She's surprised since she had even forgotten about her existence after they stopped seeing each other. Yumiella thinks Alicia must be in some special class with the elite group. Yumiella sees the perfect chance to watch what Alicia is doing. She prepares to land, careful not to get too close. When she lands, it makes a noise that gets Alicia's attention, who looks surprised in the direction of the sound. Yumiella watches the landing and thinks she'd give herself an 80, but realizes she used too much force and needs to adjust her control. She comments she probably should have landed together with Ryu. Ryu just lets out a cheerful roar next to her. Alicia hears the impact and gets worried, wondering if someone got hurt. She hesitates, thinking it would be pointless if it were a monster, but decides she needs to check, even though she's scared. So, determined, she gets up and heads toward the sound. Alicia gets scared seeing Yumiella and the dragon. Yumiella realizes she's been seen and greets her, saying she's just passing by. Alicia asks why Yumiella isn't in class. Yumiella explains she was assigned to a special class. Alicia is surprised to see her again. Alicia looks at Yumiella, thinks for a bit, and asks if she's been cursed recently. Yumiella is completely confused, not understanding the question at all. Yumiella starts to wonder if Alicia can see spirits, because last time they saw each other, Alicia saw a dark mist around her. Now, Alicia says that mist is much bigger than before. Alicia tries to help, but realizes she can't really see Ryu, and thinks he's the monster causing the mist. Yumiella comments that even though she raised Ryu and he's strong, Alicia can't see the dragon properly because of the difference in levels between them. Yumiella says Ryu is super cute, like a puppy or kitten, and he can even fly. But in Alicia's mind, the dragon is huge, but she's still impressed, thinking, adorable, and he can even fly? The three boys show up and make a scene, seeing Alicia near the dragon. One of them yells, asking what Yumiella is going to do to her, and tells Alicia to get away immediately. Alicia and another girl are surprised to see the dragon. Yumiella just sighs, clearly finding them annoying. Patrick watches the scene, analyzing in silence. Yumiella explains she was flying around the area as part of her training. The boys arrive, worried, ask if Alicia is okay and if Yumiella did anything. Alicia says everything is fine. Then, they decide to leave together, to continue their own training, while Patrick watches, understanding what happened. Alicia says she needs to go and apologizes. Yumiella says there's no need to apologize and also apologizes for interrupting Alicia's training. Before Alicia leaves, Yumiella encourages her to do her best. Alicia leaves excited and determined after the encouragement. Patrick appears and asks Yumiella if, even after everything he said, she still went flying with Ryu. Patrick finds out Yumiella flew with Ryu again. He complains, saying she should know better, but Yumiella says she landed safely this time. Patrick is suspicious, but she changes the subject, just staying quiet and looking at him. Yumiella realizes the elite team is stronger, probably because of the special training, but she thinks Patrick is still the strongest of them all. She notices Patrick is all bruised again. During the second summer break, the girl went to the royal capital to pick up a custom-made saddle for Ryu in the craftsman's district. The custom saddle took months to be ready, but Patrick insisted it be picked up. Even though she didn't think it was necessary, the girl took the time to practice her air landings and got so skilled that she could land softly even if she was thrown off by surprise. In the end, she realizes it doesn't even matter if she falls anymore. Patrick, though, didn't give up on the saddle. The girl enters a building in the city, showing her goal wasn't just to get stronger. She was also interested in other things, like collecting rare creatures. The girl gets excited about exploring alleys like in RPG games, hoping to find hidden treasures. While walking, a man tries to invite her to lunch, but she ignores him and keeps going, wondering if he was hitting on her. The man introduces himself as a spy from the Rearmest Kingdom and says he has something important to tell her. He asks her to go to a restaurant with a red roof if she's interested in listening. She realizes he wasn't hitting on her and feels unsure about what to do. The girl thinks about the spy's approach and finds it curious they're only seeking her now, since she always expected it because of her level. The Rearmest Kingdom borders the domain where Patrick lives. She wonders if something has changed or if it's just a recruitment attempt. The girl arrives at the meeting place and finds the spy, who introduces himself as Linus, a representative from the Rearmest Kingdom. He thanks her for coming and confirms her identity as Yahello. Linus asks Yahello to sit and offers the menu, saying she can order anything because he'll pay. Even though she has enough money from her adventures, Yahello decides to save and orders a simple dish, an awful stew. Yahello orders a simple dish, saying she just wanted something different. Linus approves the choice and tells the staff. She realizes he may have misunderstood the order and gets worried. Later, she hears Linus whispering, surprised she didn't order dessert, and realizes she made a mistake picking that dish. After the meal, Linus reveals he's a spy based in Valshine's capital, and that others are in the city too, including the man who approached Yahello. He says they've been gathering information on her since she entered the school, making Yahello think she's being treated like a test subject. Linus explains that after studying Yahello, they concluded it would be impossible to convince her to go to Rearmest, as she doesn't seem interested in status or money. Even if she left Valshine, she'd have no reason to choose Rearmest as her destination. That explains why they never tried to contact her before, but now the question is why they're interested now. Linus asks if Yahello would consider going to Rearmest, saying they'd offer anything she wanted in exchange for her help. He explains that, with her dragon's arrival, pressure increased and the country's leadership wants her to get involved in military affairs. Yahello understands the proposal means getting involved in conflicts and battles. Yahello politely refuses the proposal, as fighting for Rearmest would make Valshine Patrick's home her enemy. Linus already expected this answer. Before leaving, Yahello asks to ask one more question, finding the situation curious. Linus asks why Yahello is still in Valshine, since many thought she would leave due to discrimination against people with black hair. She also finds it odd she stayed but realizes the answer is clear to her. Yahello answers that she stays in Valshine to defeat the Demon Lord and protect the world. Linus is surprised and says the Demon Lord would only attack Valshine, something Yahello didn't know. She's shocked to realize no one ever told her that. Yahello doubts Linus's information about the Demon Lord and wonders if the king and school principal know more than they let on. Suddenly, Valshine soldiers approach, revealing they were being watched too. Linus realizes the conversation time is up. Yahello tells Linus the back exit is surrounded, but he can escape over the rooftops. Linus thanks her for the help, promises to return the favor, and escapes through the window. Yahello decides it's time to leave too. With Ryu's saddle in hand, Yahello decides to go back to school. Now, she can fly with Ryu whenever she wants. Even though she doesn't want to meet Linus again, she thinks she would have liked to hear more about the Demon Lord. While remembering Linus's question about why she stays in Valshine, Yahello thinks her answer was a lie. She said she stays to defeat the Demon Lord and protect the world, but, in reality, she fears they'll find out how important Patrick is to her, and use him as a hostage. Yahello remembers that when she entered school, her plan was to run away to another country. However, everything changed after meeting Patrick, especially during the practical lessons. Yahello remembers Patrick always talked to her, even if it was because he felt responsible or sorry for her. He risked his own life to protect her from monsters, and was really worried when she fell off Ryu. When they talk, they share smiles. Suddenly, Yahello realizes Patrick treated her like a normal girl, and that made her think and feel something different. Yahello realizes what she loved most about Patrick was the simple, natural way he treated her. A country girl used to study alone at school, with no classmates her age. The closest student was a boy 2 years older, who listened to her stories and helped her study. He ended up becoming her first love. Yahello compares her situation with the country girls, thinking maybe she's confusing love with affection since she knows so few people. However, she recently realized she has feelings for Patrick. She spent the night thinking about it and reached that conclusion, unable to sleep. Yumela realizes she confused her feelings, thinking it was love when it was really just affection. She thinks she was never an ordinary person, since she was reborn in this world as the secret boss of a game. Yumela thinks Patrick deserves someone better, but ends up saying she wants to be his friend. Patrick is surprised, as he always saw her as a friend. Yumela feels a bit awkward, revealing such a sincere feeling. Yumela thinks Patrick seems too perfect, and suspects he must be hiding something. She decides she'll never invade Remarist, only defend Valshine if necessary. Patrick notices she has trouble trusting others and comments on it. Patrick says he doesn't want to take advantage of Yumela's powers and that, even if she were weak, he'd still stay by her side as he does now. He knows that if he tried to force her to do anything, she'd just run away. Yumela is touched by his words. Yumela responds cheerfully, saying that if she lost everything, she'd just start over and grow again. Patrick doesn't quite know how to react, since that's not really what he meant. Then, they see the semester's test results. Patrick and Yumela are among the top in the Royal Academy's tests. Yumela finds the questions easy, as they're about the country's history and laws. Despite ranking high, she notices there are no special benefits for top students, and the full results aren't even posted, probably to protect the noble's children. Yumela says she didn't want to stand out and should have missed more answers on purpose. Patrick explains that for students from less important families, getting bad grades on purpose is common to avoid attention. However, he thinks it's better for everyone to know she's smart, because if she pretended to be dumb, people would just try to manipulate her even more. Yumela realizes things would be worse if everyone thought she was naive. Patrick says test scores aren't everything and the school is discreet even when someone fails, offering a makeup test in secret. Yumela remembers that, just like rumors about tests, there are also strange rumors about her, like controlling the world of shadows or raising a dragon to take over the kingdom. She says you shouldn't believe these rumors. Even if there were a makeup test, Yumela thinks it's hard for anyone to do so badly on such easy questions, showing that these rumors are just gossip and lies. Right after, she happily tells Patrick she got Ryu's saddle and invites him to fly with her. Patrick smiles, saying that even if the rumors were true, she'd never have to worry about it. Patrick says he already has plans for today, but suggests they could fly together another time. Yumela agrees and already starts telling a story about a recent flight with Ryu, showing she's still excited to share her experiences with him. Elanora approaches Yumela and Patrick, asking for a moment of their attention. Yumela asks what she wants, while Elanora makes a subtle gesture, suggesting the subject is important. Elanora says she has something important to discuss with Yumela and invites her to come to her salon after school. Yumela agrees, and Elanora leaves smiling, setting up the meeting. Yumela and Patrick comment that when Elanora says something is important, it really does seem serious. Normally, they get together to talk about light things like tea or jewelry, but this time Elanora seemed different. Yumela starts to suspect it might have something to do with the true nature of the Hillrose family, known for their extreme noble influence. Yumela arrives at the agreed place and notices that Elanora is alone, without her group of friends. Elanora greets her cheerfully, and Yumela asks about the important topic she wanted to discuss. Elanora explains she can't be overheard by others, asking Yumela to follow her. Yumela realizes the subject is really serious and feels like she's about to get involved in some kind of political dispute. Elanora asks Yumela to teach her how to study. Yumela is surprised and wonders if studying is some kind of secret code, since she doesn't understand the reason for the request. Elanora explains she needs to pass the makeup exam and wants Yumela to teach her how to study for it. Yumela is surprised by the request, since she's always passed tests easily. Elanora confirms the makeup exam exists, so there really are students who need to take it. She complains about her classmates, saying they lied when they told her she got the highest score. Yumela doesn't want to get involved, but asks why Elanora doesn't ask her other friends for help. Elanora rejects the idea, saying that doesn't work for her. Yumela understands that lower-ranking nobles get bad grades on purpose to avoid attention. Elanora explains she didn't see her friends' tests, just asked how they did. Yumela realizes almost no one in Elanora's circle can actually teach her anything, and Elanora confirms it, excited. Yumela agrees to help, saying a few study sessions are no problem for her. Elanora is studying history but is having trouble memorizing the kings and generations. Yumela tries to teach her that she just needs to memorize the main points to get a good grade, but realizes Elanora is really bad at memorizing, which complicates things. Yumela notices Elanora can remember very well the things she likes, like the story of Prince Edwin, tea, and perfumes, but she struggles to memorize things she doesn't like or isn't interested in. So Yumiella realizes that if the subject is linked to Prince Edwin, Elanora can remember everything. Yumiella realizes Elanora understands everything if she can connect the facts to Prince Edwin, even if her view of the world is kind of distorted. This way, she starts making fast progress in her studies, since now everything becomes a story connected to Edwin. Yumiella asks history questions, and Elanora can only answer when she associates everything with Prince Edwin or his family. Yumiella sees that, thanks to this method, Elanora is now getting even the questions right that she used to get wrong on the test. Elanora thanks her a lot, excited, saying she passed the makeup exam thanks to Yumiella. She shows that her history grade was almost perfect. Yumiella feels that getting such a sincere thank you from someone happy is something she could get used to. Yumiella gets scared at the idea of having to study with Elanora until graduation, but Elanora hugs her excitedly, saying they need to study together for the next test. Patrick appears and comments that the two look like best friends. Elanora agrees, all excited, while Yumiella tries to deny it but can't. Yumiella invites Patrick to practice fencing, saying it's been a while since they trained together. Patrick says he's busy with other work and apologizes, saying she's already very good and doesn't need him to teach anything else. Yumiella understands but feels a little disappointed. Yumiella notices that Patrick is always busy, going to lots of places alone. She starts thinking about what he's doing with so much dedication and wonders if he's leveling up like in a game. Yumiella starts thinking about what guys Patrick's age usually like, but remembers that they're different and thinks she's kind of weird herself. Meanwhile, Elanora daydreams about romance and Prince Edwin. Then, Yumiella suddenly gets an idea and comes to a conclusion. That's it? Romance? Yumiella starts thinking about Patrick's qualities, realizing he's handsome, kind, smart, and strong. She concludes that she should imagine he has a girlfriend, since they're living in an Otome game. This makes her feel empty inside. To vent this feeling, she starts training alone with her sword. During training, Yumiella breaks her sword in half. Patrick gets worried, but she says it's fine since it was just the sword that broke. Patrick ends up getting hurt again, and Yumiella notices that this happens often. Even so, she thinks his friendship is one of the few positive things in her life so far. Patrick warns her not to touch the wound and says he'll clean it and tell the teachers. Yumiella agrees. Yumiella wonders what Patrick's possible girlfriend thinks of her. She imagines that while the girl can only meet Patrick outside of school, she herself can be close to him all the time, because of their friendship, even though she can't leave the school grounds. Yumiella thinks that, for Patrick's possible girlfriend, she's practically a mortal enemy. Right after, Yumiella thanks Ryu, the dragon, and says she's going to cast a spell he likes a lot, releasing a big magic attack. Yumiella thinks that even if Patrick has a girlfriend, that doesn't explain why he always comes back injured. She starts to imagine if they have couple fights or if his girlfriend is too strong. In the end, Yumiella thinks maybe Patrick likes bad girl types and realizes she's exactly that type of girl. Yumiella asks Patrick if he has any plans after class. Patrick says he does and apologizes. Yumiella gets upset and pouts. Yumiella asks Patrick to tell her what he's been doing all the time. Before he can answer, Elanora shows up excited, wanting to show something to Yumiella. Yumiella gets annoyed with her insistence. Patrick uses the chance to escape, saying it's time for Yumiella to accept Elanora as a friend, and runs away while Yumiella tries to stop him. Patrick arrives at an important place, where he's greeted by two guards at the door. They recognize Patrick and comment on him being back. One of them praises Patrick for always getting out of situations safely, and asks why he's so excited this time. Patrick thinks he needs to get stronger. The two guards joke, thinking Patrick is motivated because of a girl, and even suggest it must be because of a love rivalry. But Patrick denies it, saying it's not a rival but actually the girl herself. He reveals that, in recent months, he's been going off into a dungeon. Patrick says he's not going to the usual dungeon that soldiers and students use, but a hidden dungeon near the royal capital. He calls this place the Hidden Dungeon. There, the monsters have a much higher level. He even thinks that, for Yumiella, the monsters in the normal dungeons would be disappointing. Patrick realizes that before, he couldn't notice any emotion on her face, but now he can see small changes in her expressions. He remembers when she refused an invitation to dance, saying she only cared about men stronger than her. Patrick knows that was just an excuse to say no, but still, that stuck in his head. Patrick thinks that if he were kidnapped, he'd just be a burden for Yumiella and doesn't want to let that happen. He feels that, to stay by her side, he can't be weak. Patrick wants strength not just to keep up with her, but also to deal with Yumelia's surprises and unexpected ideas. Patrick decides he needs to get stronger so he can confess his feelings to Yumiella. He thinks about how he ended up falling for such a different girl, remembering times she broke a sword or used magic just to entertain the dragon. Patrick fights monsters in a cave, staying alert to their attacks and countering with his sword to defend himself. Patrick defeats the monster and decides to finish training for the day. Even so, he feels he's still not strong enough. Thinking about when he really started noticing Yumiella, he shows determination to keep growing. Patrick remembers he started noticing Yumiella since the entrance ceremony, feeling sorry for her because of the problems she could have due to her black hair, since he'd been through similar things himself. But Yumiella showed she could be different from what he imagined. Patrick admits he was also scared of Yumiella, but felt even more respect and admiration for her. He realizes that, even though everyone feared her power, Yumiella didn't care about others' opinions and acted confidently, something he wouldn't be able to do in her place. Patrick believes Yumiella is really special and unique. Patrick watches Yumiella approach an animal, but she hesitates and ends up leaving. He realizes his impression of her wasn't totally right. Patrick realizes that, even though Yumiella seems different, she also has the usual worries and feelings like anyone else. For him, she was just another ordinary classmate, not someone as extraordinary as she seemed at first. Patrick starts questioning why Yumiella is so obsessed with getting stronger, but realizes that as they spend more time together, a new feeling starts to grow in him. He doesn't exactly understand what he feels, but tries to convince himself that he doesn't know the reason. Patrick notices that, although Yumiella's black hair distracted everyone, people are starting to notice her beauty. He's surprised to realize others might also be interested in her. Patrick finally admits to himself that he's in love with Yumiella. He realizes he always recognized her beauty, even before the others did. In the end, he reflects that he can also be a little slow to notice certain things. Yumiella asks if Patrick is okay and if he got hurt. Patrick comes over and says everything's fine and thanks her. Yumiella replies that she'll be fine since darkness doesn't affect her. Patrick insists she should go home since it's already dark, but she says it's fine. Patrick thinks he's still not strong enough, since he can't even see Yumiella's face in the dark. He says goodbye and leaves. Yumiella asks him to wait, says she doesn't like seeing him get hurt, and that she knows where he's been going all this time. Patrick is surprised. Yumiella asks what kind of person Patrick's girlfriend is. He gets confused, doesn't understand who she's talking about, and sighs, realizing she got everything wrong again. Yumiella thinks Patrick has a girlfriend outside of school, and asks if they come back at different times because of that. Patrick gets confused by her conclusion, and explains he's never had a girlfriend outside the academy, or any girlfriend at all. He wonders how he ended up having to declare this. In the end, Yumiella is surprised, but just says goodnight and leaves. Patrick realizes Yumiella didn't get what he feels and thinks about it as she leaves through the forest. Yumiella, walking alone in the woods, smiles slightly and thinks that knowing this makes her happy. Patrick enters a room, greets Prince Edwin, and apologizes for being late. Edwin is sitting and reading, waiting for him. Patrick apologizes for missing the appointment, saying something urgent came up. He says he managed to clear the dungeon alone. Edwin praises Patrick, saying he's improved a lot. Patrick thanks him, and tells Edwin to be careful with his injuries. Edwin mentions he noticed someone was waiting for Patrick, and maybe it's just as he suspected. Then Edwin asks what Patrick would like to talk about that night.